What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Let's Talk Movies. I'm Brad. And Miguel's muted.
Hey, guys. Welcome to Let's
There
Talk
he is.
Movies.
There he is, guys. The moment we have all been waiting for, Halloween Kills, has arrived. It is the #1 movie in America right now, which is pretty friggin' awesome. It's done a lot better than anybody else predicted that it would. It's racked in over 50 mil at the box office, which is incredible for the pandemic. And it beat No Time to Die and Venom Let There Be Carnage this weekend. Of course, No Time to Die came out last week, and Venom Let There Be Carnage came out the week before. So it's battling the third week of Venom, second week of No Time to Die, but Michael Myers still came out on top. So that is freaking amazing, guys. And he has continued. I think this movie solidified him as the king of all slashers. If you can say anything else, Michael Myers is the king of slashers. So before we get into anything, this is our spoiler review and discussion of Halloween Kills, so there will be spoilers involved. We'll go over all of that in just a minute. But Miguel, how are you doing, my man?
I'm doing good. I'm keeping myself calm right now until you see that spoiler sign come out. I'll keep myself relatively calm. But yeah, I'm ready to talk about this, man. This is a long time coming.
It has been a long time coming, dude. Let's go over to the chat. I know there's a couple people in here. Art says, "Hey, Brad and Miguel, what's going on, my man? Glad to see you." Art is also watching H2O right now, which is pretty cool. I watched H2O actually Saturday. I watched Friday. I watched H2O on Friday. Red Fanatic, what's going on, man? He says, "Nice intro." Thanks.
Yeah, you give that all to Brad.
Made it myself. He also says he saw the movie last Friday. We actually saw it on Saturday. We actually went and saw it on Saturday, and then we saw it again last night. We rewatched it on Peacock. So
we did,
yeah, definitely. So I don't want to waste any time with this. As you probably saw in the chat, we're starting early. We usually start at 8:00, and we decided we were going to start at 7:00 because we obviously have a lot to talk about. There is a lot to talk about with this movie. And we want to hear your all's thoughts too. So if you're in the chat, please, this is the spoiler discussion. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to throw up a spoiler alert in the top corner.
That is so small. Did not even notice it until I was looking. I was like, oh, what's that?
There's the bigger one too.
There you go.
The bigger one. This is our spoiler review. So we will be talking spoilers. And I believe I put that in the description as well. Let me double check in the description or the title on YouTube. I want to double check because I believe, yes, I put spoilers. So yes, so anybody who clicks on this stream, if you haven't seen the movie, you're doing it to yourself.
Yeah.
There are going to be a lot of spoilers. There is a lot to talk about with this movie. So
if you haven't seen the movie, just go ahead and just get the fuck out and watch it on Peacock, because at this point you're gonna want to hear our reviews, because both of us have some pretty interesting takes on it. I'm not gonna lie. We've watched it twice already. I don't know, Brad. He's probably watched it 4 more times since we've seen it.
I've seen it twice. I've only seen it twice.
Okay. So we've watched it a couple of times, so we got a good grasp of what's going on and what our opinions could be throughout the rest of the franchise. So
yeah,
it's gonna be a good spot.
There's going to be a lot to talk about. Art says, "I saw this on Thursday night. It was very surreal. Good times." It was a good time. It was a really, really, I really enjoyed it. It was a really good theatrical experience. It was probably the most crowded theater I've been in since the pandemic started.
It really was.
It was pretty crowded. Like there were a lot of people in there.
We went in
we had to shuffle our seats a few times because we didn't want to be right on top of anybody, but like everybody like packed into the top of the theater.
So they really did. We walked in like what, 15 or 20 minutes before the movie started.
Yeah, there were only like 3 people in there, and
it was relatively empty. I was kind of surprised by that, but then as soon as we sat down, it just started swarming, and I was like, "Oh boy, here we go."
Definitely. All right, so let's get into this. So to kind of recap, Halloween 2018 left me really disappointed. I walked out of the theater. I remember when the movie ended. I felt like it ended really abruptly. I didn't like the fact of course, it was before Kills and Ends were announced. So I didn't, I thought that was the end. I thought they did one last movie with Jamie Lee Curtis. I thought that was the end of Michael Myers. that he was just burning in the house and that was it. And I was really disappointed. And I expected to walk out of Halloween Kills thinking that it was going to be hands down my favorite sequel. It was going to go Halloween 1978 and then Halloween Kills and whatever the rest of my ranking would be, which I'm actually working on. I don't have a ranking yet, but I'm working on that, of the franchise. And I thought it was unquestionably going to be my favorite. And I walked out of the theater and I was very taken back. I was very confused. I liked it.
I wonder if
had
it was a good
great
thing
time.
though for a minute, because when we
I know.
walked out of that, whenever that movie ended and both of them, we all took our second to take a breath. I looked at Julia because I was sitting next to her as wife, and I was like, "Phew, wow, that was fucking something."
Yeah.
And then I left that movie theater pretty like, you know, excited. And then I looked at Brad, and Brad was sitting there like this. He was just like,
Well, it kicked me in the
just
nuts,
dumbfounded
dude.
for a second.
I was just like, I went in expecting, and it's my fault because I had certain expectations and certain things that I really wanted to see from this movie. And I again, we didn't read the script. We were not. I could have read the script at one point, and I chose not to. I didn't want to. I did know certain things, but I thought I knew certain things that were going to happen. Let me say this. I thought things were going to happen a certain way, and they didn't. Art says, did Julia love it? Actually, Julia did not like it. She really was not a fan of it. And she loved 2018. I took her to see 2018 after the fact, like last year at the drive-in. Because during the pandemic, theaters were still closed, but the drive-in, there's a drive-in in Central Kentucky, and I took her, and she loved it. She thought it was great. So she was pretty hyped to go see Halloween Kills, and she was not a fan. She thought it was overdone. She thought it was too brutal. My dad, who is also a huge fan, my dad and I we saw both of Rob Zombie's films in the theater together. We saw 2018 in the theater together. And he was with Miguel and I. My parents went with us, and Julia went with us, and he was not a fan either. He actually said to me today on the phone, I was talking to my parents on my way home from work, and he liked Rob Zombie's films better than he liked Halloween Kills.
It's a bold statement, Peter.
That is a bold statement, but I understand. All of the criticism that people are giving Halloween Kills, I understand. I think some people have gone a little too far. Long story short, Miguel and I both liked it. I think we really did. I've seen it twice now. Like I said, there were a few people on YouTube, on social media, that had reached out and been like, "Hey, you got to watch it a second time. I get what you're feeling. You have to go back and watch it a second time." And I was like, "All right, I'll go back and I'll watch it again." And I did enjoy it a lot more last night. I really did. I watched it on Peacock last night. You watched it on Peacock too, didn't you?
I did, but my initial goal was like, okay, you're gonna sit down, you're gonna watch it, and you're gonna do more of a critique attitude walking into it.
I took a lot of notes last night.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I ended up just rewatching all the scenes that were able just Michael just fucked shit up.
I know. I did rewind a few things.
To that point. I literally I think there's like 3 key points in that movie where I was just like, I just really want to rewatch that because it's fucking gold. Literally, in regards of like showing Michael Myers as Michael Myers, this movie really nailed it spot on. It's probably one of my favorite incarnations of Michael Myers.
I will say, James Jude Courtney, I'm a Michael fan. Like, there was a little piece of me when the mob was beating the hell out of Michael on the ground. I was almost like that. I feel like that gif of the old man who's crying and he's like, it's like, no. It's like there was a little piece of me that was like, don't kill him. Like, it's like I like the character too much.
I don't know where it came from. There's a thing me and my friends say all the time. It's like whenever it's like beating a dead horse, they were like, I think it's a South Park thing. I don't watch South Park, so if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. They go like, I think someone's like, I think they're killing Kenny. He's like, stop it, he's already dead. I know, right? Yeah.
But I will say,
spoiler, he does not die.
It's a weird double-edged sword because I was like when they were beating him up, I was like, oh, I want Michael to get up and just wreck everybody. But
no, but like
I'll tell you what, last night, especially on my
Mhm.
second rewatch, the third act of the movie,
Mhm.
when Allison and Cameron go into the Myers house. Again, we're talking spoilers. If you're just joining us, we are talking spoilers. If you have not seen Halloween Kills, goodbye. We'll talk to you. Come back and watch the replay. Him killing really from the moment that Cameron sees Lonnie up in the
Mhm.
rafter or in the pull down for the attic,
Yeah.
and he's stuffed up there, and Michael comes charging out of the closet. He was scary.
He was.
Michael was scary, and I think
Yeah.
that's something that
Something we need to take into
usually
consideration right now.
I don't think of Michael as a scary character anymore. I think he's so iconic, and he's such an iconic. It's like Darth Vader. Like the first time people saw Darth Vader, it was like holy, like it was
Yeah.
like wow.
There's
But they're so iconic at this point, and they're
Mhm.
so well known that it's hard to be afraid.
Yeah.
But Michael
But
killing
here's
Cameron was like
It was brutal. And
wow.
it was almost as if like there's a meme that I saw around on like, on the Facebook page that if you guys are Star Wars fans and you've seen Rogue One, you remember what happens like at the end of Rogue One whenever all the rebels are trapped in the hallway and then we get the infamous
Oh yeah.
Darth Vader scene. There was literally like Darth Vader entering with the lightsaber activating, and it said Michael Myers, and all the screaming rebels was Haddonfield. I was like, yeah, that's pretty much what happens. I mean, Michael Myers really does get wrecked. There's literally like I could reference like to another thing from Star Wars because the most famous scene that I have right now, or the most popular scene I think of in that movie was whenever when Karen sneaks Michael Myers into like he gets him into a trap, and everyone is over here. Which by the way, Sheriff, whatever his fucking name is,
Barker.
when he makes that fucking comment, it's Halloween. Everyone's good for a good scare. I was like, shut the fuck up. You're about to die in like
Oh,
5
do you mean
minutes.
Brackett? Do you mean
Brackett,
the
yeah.
actual sheriff or the older sheriff?
The older sheriff.
Oh, see, okay. I thought you meant Barker.
Well, when Brackett said that, I was like, that's the cringiest thing I've ever fucking heard.
Well, that's a callback because he says that in the original. He says
okay, fair.
When he's kind of being like weird and pervert, hello, Laurie. Like when he says that or whatever, when they bump into each other.
Yeah, I gotcha. But for moving forward, it was that scene right there where like Michael Myers already unmasked, and he had the masks on the floor, and he's literally about to go get fucking wrecked by the mob. I love how Michael Myers just looks to his left, looks to his right, and he basically pulls like a Mandalorian thing because in the Mandalorian he gets trapped by a bunch of stormtroopers, and the stormtroopers are like, "You might as well give up because you're it's literally 5-1," and the Mandalorian literally says, "I like those odds," and he just goes and wrecks shits up. That's literally what Michael said. He says, "All right, I like the odds," so he literally throws on the mask and just goes ham. Obviously, he gets his ass kicked, but
I think it was really cool that they let him like the way he looked side to side at the end, and he kind of like looked at all of them, and we saw his face too.
Yeah,
I actually paused.
We finally did,
and I know we're kind of being really broad. We're gonna break down. We're gonna break this down like every little faction of this movie here in a few minutes. But we saw his face, and I paused it. I rewound it and paused it because he looks to one side, and that side of his face is burned, like his skin is burned. Yeah. And then he looks over, and you can see where the bullet grazed his cheek. And when he goes to put the mask on, you see from the original where his eye is scarred over from where Laurie stabbed him in the closet. It looks really, really good. And then of course he puts the mask on, and then it's all hell breaks loose. But kind of going back to what we kind of diverged there for a second.
No, it's fine. It was just initial things that we literally that caught my eyes, which is by far like this movie really had a lot of great moments for me as a non-Halloween fan.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. James Jude Courtney is arguably I think he is my favorite Myers. And it's funny because Myers is a character that I love so much. He's my favorite movie villain. But there was a point when he leaves Cameron, when Allison is screaming at him, and he like looks at her and kind of does his weird cocks his head thing, and he's coming down the stairs, and he kills Cameron anyways, just to twist the knife a little bit and prove a point. there was a part of me that was like, wow, I don't like him right now. I'm actually not rooting for Michael in this moment. And that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Especially for me, because especially in some of the older sequels, they almost got so ridiculous that it was like, come on, Mike, like, let's go. Like, I want Michael, you know?
Yeah.
But they
really put
made
Michael
him
out to be
into,
like a pure villain.
he is a full villain. He is soulless in this movie. He is the most soulless iteration of Myers. Even Rob Zombie's Myers, because Tyler Mane did a great job of, he was hulking, he was huge, he was brutal, but he had the whole he's in love with his mom thing, and it was the weird, like, he tried to show Lori the picture of them as kids, and it was just like, it was weird. It didn't fit. But honestly, Myers was a full-on villain in this movie. So let me go to the chat real quick before we get into the biggest issues and the things that we liked the most. My dad says he didn't think it was that good. He really didn't.
He said, dot. Yeah.
I mean, the guy that got me into Myers, man. Art says it was meant to be brutal, and it definitely is a very stylized Halloween film, but I dug it. It's different. Perfect way to put that, dude. Perfect way to put it. James Jude Courtney is GOAT. Also, hey guys, what's up? J-Dad, what's going on? What's going on? Glad to have you here. My mom says, in my opinion, the opening and beginning with the connection of the years was better than the ending. I told you where I think it should have ended to make it better and more suspenseful. Absolutely. And my mom mentioned this, again, somebody who's relatively new to the Halloween fandom. And of course, so many people are talking about the flashback. The flashback was
spot on.
A plus, like Christmas Story, her right, plus, like nonstop on the board. I mean, it was perfect. You couldn't have had a better flashback scene. J-Dead says Michael came out of the closet like he just ate Taco Bell and was looking for the bathroom.
He really was. He came out there with a mission. Oh my word! It was by far one of the biggest jump scares. I'm telling you, this year.
I actually felt scared of him in that scene. Like that was actually like, wow. I mean, more so than usual. J-Dad says, okay, this hit me after I watched it the third time. When Karen stabs him in the back after the mob jumped him, that's when he died for a moment. Then, like Lori said, he transcends into something else. That's a really great point. Really, really, really great point.
That's
really good
insight.
Point. So we're going to kind of dive into that a little bit more. So my biggest issues with the movie, let's start there. I want to get the negative out of the way, because there were a lot of positives. There really were. But there were also things that I was like, I wasn't as wild about. So I've seen so many people in Halloween groups on Facebook, on social media. So many people are talking about the lack of plot or the lack of story, but I disagree with that. I think that this movie was everything that David Gordon Green and John Carpenter and Danny McBride and Jamie Lee Curtis said that it was going to be. Panic, pandemonium, chaos, misinformation, brutality, blood, guts, gore, and carnage. Like it was meant to be those things.
Yeah.
I think it worked. It was like you took, like the test screening from over a year and a half ago now, where people said it's like a combination of Halloween 4 and Halloween 2 plus the original combined. It really was. It's got the chaotic, nobody knows what's going on atmosphere, but it's also got that mob mentality like we saw in Halloween 4. I really didn't mind the story. I think the story was Michael against the world. Like that really was the story. I don't think you needed to tell any more of a story than that.
It was very much put in for its time, which is something I heard that night. It said where the comment was every movie you have to take it for what it is at the time. You know what I mean? Like this movie was perfect for this moment in time, which is all about it's all about misinformation and false claims and how that can affect us throughout a situation. And obviously, this is probably the most accurate depiction of what would happen in a small town if we found out a serial killer was loose in their town. Because you saw how immediately things went haywire with the mob. As soon as there was a thought of Michael Myers being somewhere, which, by the way, when we find out that we finally got to see one of the other patients that escaped from the from the bus that wrecked. So we finally got to see one of them. And unfortunately, the poor guy is a victim of misinformation. So he immediately became the target throughout like a good majority of the movie. I think like the last 20 or 30 minutes is whenever he like actually died. Like the whole entire movie was mainly about like where this guy was. They
The
thought
mob was
that was
chasing
Michael Myers.
him. They thought he was Myers.
Which, by the way, I'll say my thing that I didn't like about the movie, and which is honestly to my surprise, I was thoroughly disappointed with the mob. I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty disappointed with the mob and how that was depicted, because in my head, obviously, I went in with that list right there. I thought it would legitimately be like a mob going after Michael Myers. It wouldn't just be like a good majority of the movie of them being upset at the hospital looking for this patient that they thought was Michael.
Yeah.
And I was a little upset with the fact that it was just the Allison group and the nurse group that was going after them. It was just two groups going after Michael Myers. I was expecting more depth or more of a lineup and the mob of going after Michael.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes. And in my head, here's why the mob I shouldn't say the mob disappointed me. I think I had a different expectation going in for what the mob was going to be.
Yeah.
I actually really loved, and I actually just saw, was it Art? Yes, Art said his suicide broke my heart, talking about Mr. Tivolo, I believe is what his name was. I teared up during a few scenes, very effective. It was one of my favorite parts of the movie.
It's without a doubt one of the most heartbreaking things. Yeah.
And when Tommy and Brackett started to realize, like, oh my God, that's not him, but like, we can't stop these people. I mean, It was doctors, police officers, nurses, civilians. I mean, they were just all hell-bent on hurting this guy, and he didn't even do anything.
Yeah, he was over here. He went to the hospital begging for help, and instead of being offered for help, he was gonna get bombarded by this mob. And you can imagine the amount of fucking fear this man probably had as a mental patient, anyways. Someone who's not in a good headspace. And it was damn near really frightening to see that. That was probably a good scary element of what would happen if a mob just mistaken you for someone and they were going after you. That's a scary element. That's probably more scary than Michael Myers finding me, in a dark alley.
Yeah.
Is a legitimate mob going after you with the intent to absolutely kill you.
Right.
And you have nowhere to go.
Here's where I thought in my head going into the movie. Here's where I thought the mob would go. I did not think about the escaped patient and that whole thing.
No one thought of that. I did not even think of that.
And it was brilliant. I thought it was great. A lot of people saw it as kind of a misstep or kind of a like subplot that was unnecessary. I thought it was brilliant. I really thought that the mob would fail, that they would there would be all that misinformation. And I thought there would be kind of a come to Jesus moment where it was like, okay, even Brackett saying he's turning us into the monsters or whatever, when the poor guy jumped off and died and the people were like, wow, like we just did this. I thought there would be a little bit more of a redemption arc for the mob, because as you and I talked about before, it would have almost been scarier if the mob was like, okay, we're finally like, we're unified. We know who we're going after. Like we've sorted through the misinformation. And then they finally go after Michael, and Michael still is winning. He's still killing them. I feel like that would have almost been more effective. The mob never really, that group that Tommy and Karen took from the hospital and Brackett, when they cornered him at the end and they had that whole battle with Michael. Yes, but I'm talking the collective. I thought we were going to get a Laurie Braveheart moment with the mob, and it was going to be like they're going to rally together and they're going to do this.
Like they end up at a neighborhood, like, all right, Squadron B, go this way. Squadron C, go this way. Our A team's going this way.
And of course,
we're going for them.
Michael should still kill them all. I mean, I don't think the mob should have won. That's not what I mean.
No,
I just
not at
thought
all.
There would
this
be
was a losing battle right out the get-go.
Right.
Because there was a bunch of drunk fucks coming from a bar. Like, I knew this was not going to end well when the mob started from a bar.
I think it
And
should have been, but my issue again was I feel like it would have been more effective if you'd have had them fail. Maybe this poor guy dies and
mhm,
the mob fails, but then they're like, okay, Lori has that moment with them where Lori is like, it's going to take all of us to stop him. Like, we have to stop him. We have to do this. We have to unify. We have to all be on the same page. And they finally get on the same page, and it's still useless because
mhm,
Michael still kills them.
yeah.
And that would have been more effective to me. But we never really saw the mob unified after that. You know what I
No, and
mean?
I don't think we should have, because this was definitely going to I knew this was gonna be the movie where Michael literally does not lose. Like, there's no point in this movie where he loses.
I
I didn't
had
think
more
there
of an
was,
epicness in mind for the
because,
mob.
well, the main reason why I didn't think that, because I remember in the scene when Tommy was introduced and he was giving his little eulogy on the whole Halloween thing, and he mentioned something about like not letting fear win, blah 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 blah, and like we have to all say like this is the end of Michael Myers. He cannot have a hold on us. But guess what? He comes back and
Mm-hmm.
his presence just engulfs the town in fear. And
Yeah.
that's something that I knew that's what I knew what would happen in the movie. I knew coming into this movie, I knew the fact that the mob would immediately be misinformed, fearful, and make mistakes, and someone will have to pay the price, which
And a
unfortunately
lot of
was that mental patient.
that is on Tommy. I mean, I'm
It was on
sorry, Anthony
Tommy.
Michael Hall did a great job, but a lot of the stupid decisions that were made are
Yeah.
on Tommy. And
It was quick how they instigated the mob at the hospital. It was
yeah.
quick because
Well,
Tommy just out of nowhere just said, "We got to finish this. This is it. Evil dies tonight." That's probably the 75th time that's been said in
and
like
then
15 minutes of the
that one
movie.
and this kind of brings me into my biggest issue the first time, and I say the first time watching because this is what threw me off the most. Well, of course, Tommy in the hospital says, evil dies tonight or whatever, and that one random woman goes, evil dies tonight, and it was just like,
Yeah.
like
It was
what
it was a little cringy at that moment.
other than being scared because there's a serial killer out in this town,
Mhm.
what emotional motivation do you have to be so like like up in
Yeah.
arms? You know what I mean? It seemed
It would
very
make sense
strange
coming
that
from the
she just
bar.
like
Yeah, it would make sense coming from the bar, from from that group. But then, like, all these people in the hospital, they don't
right,
know what's going on. They don't know Michael Myers is out.
exactly.
Well, actually, they do, don't they? Because that
Yes,
was
by
one
that
thing that I
point they
noticed.
do, but
That's one
I
thing I
mean,
noticed was, I mean, the one thing I wanted to mention about like how this is probably the most accurate depiction of what would happen if a serial killer was in our time, was they all received like a notification of. Did you
yeah,
remember? Like they received notification of Michael
yes.
Myers is out on the loose, which, to be honest, that right there is probably one of the scariest things I could receive relatively now in our present day. You know what I mean? Like if I was just chilling at a bar and I get a notification like in the phone saying serial killer on the loose, Michael Myers is on the loose, please seek shelter, I would be freaking the fuck out. Take a look at
Well,
what
but
happened
it
with
probably would have said, and of course we're reading way too far into this. But it
we're
probably would
supposed
have
to.
been like like an emergency alert. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
please, you need to go home. You need to lock your doors. But of course, then people are going, why? And of course, then you have everybody chatting
Mhm.
and texting and calling and like, and of course, like I even saw somebody in the chat. It was, a lot of the people were probably the firefighters' families at the hospital.
Yeah. Which I would love to, well, like we'll have to talk about that one next.
I know.
But yeah, with the whole ideology of like the misinformation, the mob mentality, yes, did it disappoint me a little bit? It did. But did I think it was executed rather well? I do believe so. I believe I agree, that's probably what would happen if a mob decided to go after a serial killer. You would
Right.
have a lot of misinformation. They would be overcome with fear, and there'd be so many mistakes being made. And
Mhm.
whenever the final mob decided to catch Michael Myers in that big old climactic battle, I knew it wasn't going to end well because you saw how fucking fearful they were. They were angry, but they were still very fearful of Michael
Nobody
Myers.
wanted to like be the first one to like run
Yeah.
up to him and start. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, and it's funny because here's my biggest upon the first watch, and of course it didn't seem as silly humorful to me last night when I watched it, but in the theater
Julia herself said, "Is this a
There,
satire?"
there were a few things. My biggest issue upon first watch was how comical some of the things came across. And I don't know, that might have just been me. Again, I may have, my expectations for like a dark, gritty, nasty movie may have been too high. But again, like when I didn't mind when Marion said "Evil dies tonight" in the bar. I thought that was fine. But of course, even Tommy saying it in the hospital was fine. That was cool. Like he's emotional, and Tommy has a reason. He has an emotional reason to feel that way because of what happened when he was a kid. But when the random chick in the back stands up and says "Evil dies tonight," it was just kind of like, yippee! Like,
who are you? Yeah,
like we're just hopping on the bandwagon to hop on the bandwagon.
pretty much. I mean, that's the way it is. Like, people will follow a crowd just to follow a crowd.
Yeah,
It's something my dad always says all the time. He says, "Hey, if you want to be a fly, be a fly. Guess what fly follows? Fly follows to the shit." That's basically the best way we can describe it.
And even a lot of the decisions that the mob made, and some of the decisions, it wasn't even the one-liners really. It was some of the decisions that people made and their actions. It
There
came
were a
across
lot of
like,
decisions in this movie.
and I mean, I'm going to be honest with you guys. There was more laughing in the theater than there was like gasping or being afraid, or you know what I mean? We laughed a lot collectively as a theater. There were a lot of laughs in there. When Vanessa, who was the nurse, when Michael kind of opens the door and she shoots herself, everybody was like, "What the hell was that?" Like, I mean, it was a cool. Looking back on it, I'm like, that was kind of cool. Like, that was a fun
cool death.
But
there was
at
a lot of
first,
situations where
I was just like, what? Like,
we
what
literally
was
got
that?
like. I love Michael Myers, even though he's like completely emotionless, but you could tell his reactions at these people's attempts to like take him down. Like that moment right there. I mean, Michael's in there like the old girl got a 45 Magnum. She got a fucking Python just
also
down the barrel of her.
Her and Marion can't shoot.
Funniest.
They missed every shot.
They did. You can't miss with a gun like that. Love you to death, but you can't miss with a gun like that. But also, it missed Michael, and Michael was over here like.
Well, did you see it? At one point when
like,
it shows
wow.
him in the car, because it pans to Vanessa and she's taking shots at the car, and she shoots the window out and she takes another shot, and Michael goes,
yeah,
he didn't like really flinch. He just went.
Yeah, like it didn't really bother him as much. I was like, oh my God, Michael really does not care whatsoever.
Yeah.
He thinks these people are completely dumbasses. And yeah, you were confused for a second to how she died. I knew right from the get-go how she died. You were like,
well,
wait, how did she die again?
I realized how, but it took me, I was like, did that just happen? Like, did he just like make it ricochet and like turn her hand? Like,
yeah, he's just turned her hand, I guess.
And of course, that opened up to what Lindsay was able to do. Also, something that I loved, Kyle Richards. She was one of my favorite characters. Lindsay is one. I'm so glad that Lindsay survived. Because Lindsay was one of my favorite characters.
Yeah, she understood the magnitude of this of Michael Myers.
She understood, but she also had, I don't know, Kyle Richards did a really, really great job. And the rest of the cast did too. I don't say that to put anybody else down at all. But Kyle Richards was standout to me. And of course, I'm really happy she survived. I almost wish she would have had more of a role, which I guess if she would have had more of a role, there was a better chance of her dying.
Yeah.
But her chase scene, there was a lot of suspense. It was good suspense. It felt like a Myers chase scene. Hearing his breathing, when he was kind of like just turning his head and looking around for her, I thought that was really creative.
It was a far more suspenseful chase scene than Karen.
Oh yeah,
and Michael, which I thought was pretty like. It was pretty suspenseful too, thinking that Karen was like, I thought that was gonna be the moment Karen was gonna die. Obviously, that didn't happen at that time, but I was a pretty suspenseful right there. I was like, oh shit, it's about to go down between Michael and Karen. But yeah, with Lindsay, by far, she was the one that I understood the most as regards of like her understanding of Michael Myers' like legacy and his like power and dominion he has over this town. It's insane. And Michael, because she had to convince those like rowdy fucking kids about like Michael, because they were over here just chilling with Michael for a second, and Lindsay had to like put it in perspective. He was like, "Listen, this guy will really fuck you up.
Her
You gotta
portrayal
go."
felt serious. Like it
Yeah,
felt her character felt a little bit more serious than the others, and I really appreciated that.
yeah, she was the
And I say
antithesis
that
of fear
respectfully.
itself.
Yeah, I
Most
don't say
likely,
that
yeah.
as in, oh, Tommy was a waste or Marion was a waste. I don't mean that at all. I liked those characters. Another line that a lot of people have a huge problem with, I loved it, is when Marion says, "Hey, Michael, this is for Dr. Loomis." I loved that line. I thought it was really cool because she says this is for Dr. Loomis, and like Michael kind of looks at her and she cocks it and nothing happened, or it just clicks. And he looks at her like, yeah, I bet it is from Loomis. He couldn't do it either. Like it just he gives her kind of a look like, okay.
Okay,
And
yeah,
then he goes to kill her.
that's very Loomis of you, darling.
I know,
So,
right?
but yeah, we could talk about Dr. Loomis too. I feel like that's probably one of the most
Well,
important moments of the movie as well.
so let's kind of move into the things we liked.
Okay.
And obviously, the thing that I think everybody, whether they adored the movie or whether they hated the movie, agree on is the flashback.
Yes.
This flashback was surreal. It really was.
It was really refreshing, and it felt like I was watching the original like Halloween. I felt like I was watching like 20 extra minutes of the original Halloween. It was really spot on. And my only gripe with that, if I don't know if you noticed, but this is after Loomis shot Michael like 6 times in the chest, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where were the bullet holes on
now,
Michael?
I know that's nitty gritty.
That's nitty gritty stuff. But I mean, like if you're gonna make a movie based off the original, you have to be nitty gritty with the continuity. That was a pretty big continuity error right there on their part.
I saw that somebody had.
What, did he go to that hardware store and get another pair of overalls? Is that what you're telling me right now?
He ran down there again.
Yeah.
I saw where somebody kind of took a freeze frame and zoomed in, and there are little, like, you can kind of maybe see bullet holes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not
nitpicking, but that was just something that I noticed, and I was like, wait, this man got fucking 6-shot to the chest.
Right.
And we don't see it.
Aaron Armstrong, who played Michael in the flashback, did a fantastic job.
Mm-hmm.
The mask looked incredible.
It did.
It's the best H1 mask we've ever gotten in any movie. Even Halloween 2, which was the original mask, I feel like this mask looked more like, with the castle stretch, it looked like it had the way he moved. Mm-hmm. I mean, it screamed H1. The only thing that I think I may have done a little bit different, and of course I'm not a filmmaker, I'm nitpicking, I'm being a greasy fan, is maybe even if they would have added a little bit of grunge to the picture quality to make it almost look like the original film would have.
It did,
if that makes sense. It did, but it still looked modern. It still had that modern
to it. I can definitely tell between the quality of the flashback to what we got present day. I could tell the difference between one another.
Yeah.
And I like that a lot. I love the vibe of it. It looked more misty and murky, so to speak, in the flashback, which I totally get as compared to Halloween Kills, which is supposed to be like fire and chaos now.
Yeah.
Did you get like the difference that that flashback had with that one?
There was definitely like a color grading difference between the two of them. The Myers house, everything from the dog, like seeing the dog was kind of cool. There's a dog in here. Seeing them kind of creep around the kitchen. And of course, that was a lot of foreshadowing for them opening the closet. That was foreshadowing to when Cameron and
closet, man. Every scene I had in the Myers house always checks that closet first. I'm like, guys, we know for a fact Michael's not in there. He's definitely not in there. There's no way in hell he's gonna be in there. And
I loved when Michael came charging out. I mean, he's just like, and he slams him up against the wall.
Michael is in his element when he's in his house. He is unstoppable. He really is.
Yeah. I felt for Hawkins in that scene too with his partner.
Mm-hmm. What about that twist right there? That one really caught me off guard with the fact that
It
Hawkins could have been the one to let it all end. And
Yes.
for him
Well,
to
do you mean when Loomis went to kill him?
yeah,
Yeah, that's true.
and
And
that
I go on. I need to
it was well, the fact is
think
I
about
get
something.
why Hawkins did it because they gave what's it called? Exposition between him and his
Right.
partner in regards of like they had gave us some backstory to Michael saying like he was just an awkward kid that stared outside the
Yes.
window and shot wings off the flyers or whatever. And I guess it made sense for Hawkins to not want to do that and not let some random stranger in a brown trench coat fire more shots into his head because Hawkins was thinking this is one of our residents that needs to be taken into custody. Like
Yeah.
he needs to be tried. It's very Batman-ish. It's like he needs to be tried. Blah blah blah
Well,
blah.
and Hawkins even said like he couldn't help but feel like there was somebody's baby under that mask. Like he felt
Yeah,
like there was a person under there. Let's talk
terrible
Loomis
mistake.
because of course when Hawkins goes to run down the stairs after Michael, we see Michael just and I love that scene because and if you notice, somebody pointed this out today. If you remember back in H1 when Loomis first meets Brackett and Michael drives behind Loomis when they're downtown,
Yeah, which is by
or
far the
no.
funniest
No.
scene.
It's actually when Lori and Annie pull up to talk to Brackett, and she's like, "What happened?" He shouts too, or whatever, and Brackett says, "Oh, a couple of kids broke into the hardware store, but
Yeah,
all they
yeah,
stole was a couple of Halloween masks, some rope, and a couple of knives, or whatever." He says like that. He was strangling him with rope. Did you notice that?
yeah.
I
He
didn't.
had that.
That didn't dawn on me the first. I had to watch that. As actually, I did. Somebody posted that on Facebook today, and I was like, "Holy crap! That's rope. He's strangling him with rope." Um. So yeah, I really liked everything they did with the flashback.
The
Seeing
flat, but
Hawkins look down the stairs and Michael's just walking out the door. He's just like going down the stairs and he's leaving. And then of course you hear Loomis.
Loomis,
What do you
famous
think of
Loomis.
Loomis?
Have you been catching up with what's going on with the post? They've been posting all of the pictures
Yeah,
of the prosthetics they
Chris
used
Nelson
for
posted those.
yeah. Holy shit.
And he said,
Bro,
Christopher Nelson
fuck.
said that it is all prosthetic. He said they did not do any digital
Yeah.
stuff to this guy.
This looked way better than again, these movies are a while back now, but this is way better than Paul Walker's movie and the way they did him. This was way better
Yeah.
than General Tarkin and Rogue One and Princess Leia.
Mm-hmm.
This was by far way better
It was perfect.
special effects and creating someone who had passed away.
Yeah.
It was spot on. My thing is with Dr. Loomis, again, I'm not one to I can't still claim myself as a Dr. Loomis fan yet because I haven't watched the rest of his movies. But I thought in my head I was thinking, is what Dr. Loomis did whenever they finally catch Michael out of character? Whenever he finds a Hawkins and he's like, "Did he kill again? Did he kill again?" I was like, "What, bro? Just take those shots right now." You just dumped the whole clip in him, and he's still standing. No, don't even question that. Just go for it.
I think Loomis looked incredible. You could not have done a better job.
Could not
and
have done
again,
a better job.
Even not only with Loomis and the masks, but even all of the prosthetics and all of the blood and the gore. Christopher Nelson and his team, man, they absolutely crushed it. Award-winning special effects for this movie. It was that good. But I will say, and Art even says, guys, I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep up with the chat, but there's a lot. We will have a time at the end to just talk to you guys. Art says he thought Loomis looked very convincing. He really did, man. Loomis looked unbelievable.
In my head, I was thinking, I was like, why doesn't, when knowing that happened, I was like, why not keep Loomis in here then? If the fact that special effects could have kept them in here.
Well, I think they didn't want it to be too much because if the whole flashback would have been Loomis, there's more opportunity to screw it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To make it, then there might be something where it's like, oh, that wasn't good. I will say, I wasn't a huge fan of Loomis's lines. I thought it was strange. Like Don M, what's going on? And he says, Officer Hawkins, did Michael kill again? Like,
Yeah, that.
I feel like that wouldn't have. Again, I think at that point, Loomis would have been, as soon as
He
he
would have
saw
been on a
Michael walk
mission.
out of the house, I think Loomis would have been unloading again or
Yeah.
tackling him, or
Yeah.
Loomis would have been on him like white on rice to kill him. Like, I think the cops probably would have been trying to stop Loomis at that point, because Loomis was just, I feel like that would have been Loomis's MO, not to run behind Michael and get in between him and the cops and be screaming at the cops upstairs, but also trying to keep track of him. Like, it felt strange.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
I agree. And I guess I'm glad we're kind of on the same page of that, because again, I don't know Dr. Loomis all that well. I don't know his character arc all that well. I'm only based off of Rob Zombie and the original Halloween and 2018 with what we heard in the audio clips. Like, I only know that much of Dr. Loomis, and coming from that alone, like, Dr. Loomis's like main objective was to end Michael Myers. Like, there was no sense of helping him whatsoever.
You've seen nothing yet.
There's
That's why
like,
I'm so excited to do this Purely and Simply Evil show and really get into these sequels, because
yeah, the
you haven't
memes
seen
you're sending me
seen
right now
Crazy
with
Loomis yet.
Yeah. Well, okay, so yeah, we all can agree that Dr. Loomis's character was kind of out of place in the flashback. Still very emotional and
I don't think his
gripping.
character was out of place. My only problem was the lines. The only other thing with Loomis that I was kind of like, maybe it's something, maybe it's not. Later on, when Hawkins says that, like, he pushed Loomis's arm up to stop from shooting Michael,
Mm-hmm.
Loomis's face when he had the gun pointed at Michael's head, Loomis almost looked like he low-key did
not want
to shoot him.
Mm-hmm.
And that is surely not, that's definitely not Loomis's MO. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I do think Loomis cared about him to an extent. I always thought that Loomis cared about Michael, but I think he cared. It's almost like when you have to put an animal down. I think it's almost like he deep down, he does care about him, but he knows that there's no saving him. Like, there's nothing. It's like when he says, I met this 6-year-old child, blank, pale, emotionless. He was told there was nothing left. Like, he knows deep down that there is nothing human left to Michael.
It's insane how way ahead, how many steps ahead Loomis was.
Yeah. Even when he was a kid.
Compared to Haddonfield. Like, Dr. Loomis was honestly thinking, he was like, dude, put this thing down. I don't care if he's 8 years old. Put him down. There's nothing we can save.
And Marion even says it. Like, Marion says in the bar, nobody listened to Dr. Loomis. Like, Dr. Loomis, like, tried to convince people and tried to, like, he knew what he was. Or she says, he knew a killer when he saw one. Like, Dr. Loomis, there was just something, he was that Van Helsing to Dracula. Loomis, of course, Laurie is now, but of course, Loomis is Michael's Van Helsing. Like, he always will and forever will be. And of course, Laurie has taken on that role, but I think it's still different between Michael and Laurie. Art says, when does Purely and Simply Evil premiere? Well, Art, that watch along we did of H78 and H18, we counted as the very first episode of Purely and Simply Evil.
Go check that out.
We are going to do another episode of that very soon. We're working on that right now. It's a scheduling thing right now. There's just been a lot going on. So, but we are going to do that. I think we might try to do a couple more Halloweens before October's up. Maybe do Halloween 2. That'll be good.
Yeah. And also, we have some big things coming up this weekend, so we'll definitely have to do a couple of extra videos just for the sake of Purely and Simply Evil. So
yeah, you'll definitely start to get Purely and Simply Evil on a more regular basis every once in a while. Yeah, Art, I knew he was there, Miguel. Art was there like the entire time on the watch along.
Yeah, there we go.
He was there.
I figured he was.
Yeah. So that kind of acted as the first episode, but we will start to do more and more of those, Art. We promise you. So yeah, the flashback was incredible. everything from the freaking cobwebs in the Myers house was on point. You know what I mean? They couldn't have nailed it anymore. And that was all done on a soundstage. If you look at the behind the scenes pictures, I actually have kind of you can kind of see a little bit here. This is kind of on the front lawn of the Myers house. You can kind of see how it's it's a soundstage. It's not, it wasn't an actual place. Art says that feels like it was months ago. Yeah, dude, it feels like it was a while. It was only 2 weeks ago, but it feels like it's been longer. So let's kind of go through a couple different beats of this thing. I think that the movie overall, and I meant to say this earlier, I think that it would have benefited from being about 10 minutes longer.
Yeah.
And not tacked on to not 10 minutes tacked on to the beginning or 10 minutes tacked on to the end. Interspersed throughout with some more dialogue, some more character moments. I don't necessarily mean things happening. I mean, a moment between Tommy and Lindsay. Sneeze. A moment between Lori and Brackett, maybe, because Lori and Brackett never really interacted. Lori and Lindsay never really interacted. Really, the only legacy characters that interacted were Tommy and that interacted with Lori was Tommy and Lindsay, or Tommy and Lori.
Yeah.
That was really it. Nobody else really interacted with her. Marion didn't. Lindsay didn't. Brackett really didn't. Tommy was it. And it was really the only point when Tommy runs in is like, you protected me 40 years ago when I was a kid. He's not going to get you. I'm going to protect you. But like, what do we do? I thought that was kind of funny too. Cause Tommy's like, I won't let anything happen to you. And then he's like, but Lori, what do we do? Yeah. He's like, I don't know what to do.
My best analogy for that is pretty much like, say the A team has to take a break and then they slap in the B team. That's pretty much what that movie was. It was pretty much like the A team had to be benched, so that was Hawkins and Lori and everyone else in there, and then the B team was like Tommy, Karen, the starting lineup, and then the B team had to come in this movie, and guess what? They get absolutely marked. So now the A team has to come back in at the last quarter, which is Halloween ends. That's my best. It's funny
because she even gave him that little, like, when Tommy goes to run out of the room, she goes, "Go get him, Tommy!" She even said it to him, like, "Please go get him."
Yeah, exactly. It's hilarious.
Now bring on Resident Evil, dude. That's gonna be one of the next big ones.
Yeah.
My mom says more Lori. Let's talk about that for a minute. Jamie Lee Curtis killed it. And she was only in the movie for like 8 minutes. Yeah, but I think Jamie Lee Curtis was my favorite character. It felt like even the scene of her and Hawkins talking, and you can tell that like
that's where that picture came from. We finally knew what happened between Lori and Hawkins. Yeah.
Like they had a little bit of a romantic thing in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed that scene. I thought there was a lot of emotion. It felt I've never felt like, even in H2O, even in even Halloween 2, it does, because of course in Halloween 2 she's doped up, she's in the hospital, she looks a little bit different because of course Halloween 2 was filmed in 1980 or 1981. It came out in 1981, so I mean it was 3 years later. So Jamie Lee Curtis looked a little different, but I don't know. There was something about when she's laying in the bed talking to Hawkins. And they're kind of talking back and forth about, like, when they kissed each other and talking about, he makes the Ben Tramer joke and just little things. I felt like that was the 60-year-old same person that we saw in the original. You know what I mean? Like I've never felt like it was the same Lori, if that makes sense. I don't know. There was something. It felt like Lori.
It humanized her. It brought her back to like the old innocent, the young innocent Laurie Strode that was attacked by Michael Myers. Because since 2018, all we got was PTSD-ridden, drunk Laurie. That was
she was drunk half the time in the first one, like
on a mission. And then when Hawkins comes in, she goes back to her teenage years where I'm pretty sure she forgot all about Hawkins until she finally saw Hawkins, and it brought her back to like her time of full vulnerability. Like she was as vulnerable as you could expect whenever her and Hawkins had that little moment of intimacy. So it was a real surreal moment to bring Lori back down to
definitely
not a big leader, but just like, as a human being who's trying to take down this supernatural force of nature right here.
And she even kind of
You know what I
laughed,
mean?
and yeah, she laughed and she giggled and she looked like little bits of happy in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because
she looked
usually,
happy for a moment.
again, in 2018, it was like, I mean, she was either drunk half the time or she was angry, or you could
Or
tell that
forcing Allison to go to Mexico, like
she
she was she was everywhere.
like she's so hardened and she's so
Hmm.
there's so much like pain behind her, and I feel
Yeah.
like seeing her laugh, it was kind of like, wow, like I want to see her laugh, you know what I mean? Art says they were cute together. I hope they get married and ends.
She gonna die.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't
She
know.
gonna die.
Indie Phantom says that I'm glad there wasn't much Lori. I don't really get why she even needed to be in this one except for some exposition. Man,
Fair.
I loved Lori in this movie. I liked Lori in this movie more than I did in 2018. I don't even know why, but it felt more real. Like it felt legit. It felt true. It felt original Lori. My mom says it's only a paper cut.
When she
laughed
said that,
when she said that.
it was it was like a Monty Python reference. Whenever like the Black Knight gets like cut off, he's like, "'Tis but a scratch. I can
Yeah.
still go," and whatnot. So yeah, it was funny for me because like when he heard that, I was like, "Oh my god, that's a good one right there, Lori."
Yeah.
But oh my goodness, Lori still, even though we got like a very like vulnerable side of Lori, we still got some badass moments when she
Oh, yeah.
literally just kneed a gentleman right into the torso, despite opening up her stitches. I was like, whoa.
I think my favorite Lori moment in this movie is when when Tommy and Karen run in the room and Tommy's, doing his whole, 40 years ago you protected me, now I'm going to protect you. He's not going to get you, like you will be okay or whatever. And she realizes that Michael's alive and she kind of has her little panic attack, and Karen says, you had a knife in your stomach. Like you can't, like you have to stay here. Like you can't go. You can't. And Lori like grabs her clothes or whatever, and Karen's blocking her. And she said, she says like, "You're going to let me go. I'm the one who has to kill him." And then she says, "Now get the fuck out of my way." And I was just like, that's Lori. Like that's the Lori that I want. You know what I mean?
And then she got sidelined quick.
And did you notice? I noticed this last night, Miguel, and I'm curious if you did. There's a line right after Lori stands up and she's putting her shirt on and she's changing and she has the knife. She says it has to be because Hawkins is watching this go down too.
Yeah.
And Hawkins is kind of looking at her like he knows. You know what I mean? I think he gets it. He knows.
He knows that Lori's the one that needs to.
There's just something Michael. He knows that it's gonna come down to Lori and Michael. Like it's meant to. It's fate. It has to. And I think there's a line where she says something like, what does she say? I think I wrote it down in my notes. Let me. She says, "Let him come for me. He'll take my head as I take his."
Yeah.
And I'm almost like, that's foreshadowing, man. And that goes back to what I've said all along. I think this is going to end with Lori and Michael killing each other. I think that entire mob could have all did whatever they wished to him, and I think he'd still survive. I think Lori is the only person that is meant to kill him.
The plot doesn't allow Michael Myers to die. The writers, that's why Michael hasn't died, because the writer said, "Nope." Is it Lori making that slash? Nope. Okay, he still lives. Is it Lori making that shot? Nope, he's gonna live.
Halloween best kills. What's going on? So yeah, man, I loved that Lori moment. I have it written down. She says, because Karen says,
there's a system.
There's a system for this. Like, you have to let the police handle this or whatever. And Lori says, well, the system failed. Now get out of my way. And I was just like,
the system did fail. You remember, I am proud to say,
just like, let's go.
Yeah, I am proud to say I got like a quarter of the theater to laugh in that theater about the system failing, because whenever what's his name, the main sheriff, when he's like getting pushed, Barker, and then he's sitting there in the steps. He's just like so fucking defeated. He's like, "What the hell just happened?" And as that scene showing, I literally like said, "It wasn't that loud." I was like,
Oh,
man,
it was loud. It
this
was
man,
loud enough where people
yeah."
heard it.
I said, this man ain't getting reelected. And Brad told me, he said like at least 4 levels looked up, and they're like,
I'm not kidding you. The entire top level of the theater turned around because Miguel goes, he ain't getting reelected. The entire theater like erupted in laughter. That was like the funniest thing that happened the entire night. He's not getting reelected.
this man
For
really
real, though,
fucked up.
he is a
fucked up.
terrible sheriff.
Yeah. He literally could have stopped Tommy from instigating that riot. He could have placed a martial law to a certain degree and held everyone down, but he didn't. He just let the shit happen. Matter of fact, I don't know where was he trying to go up the stairs. What was he trying to do? Nothing. He wasn't trying to do anything. I think he was actually trying to kill the mental patient too.
Even in Halloween 2018.
Yeah, he did some terrible
when
mistakes
Hawkins is
trying
like, he's like, look at like Michael Myers. Like, do you know this name? Like, this guy's escaped. We need to watch out for him. He's dangerous or whatever. And he goes, what are we supposed to do? Cancel Halloween.
Yes.
It's like, yeah, you are.
It ain't
like,
Christmas. It ain't the 4th of July. You can't cancel those, but Halloween, you can cancel that one.
Yeah, it was really funny. So yeah, I thought that was kind of foreshadowing when she said about, he'll take my head as I take his. Like, I just, I that stuck out at me because I really have a feeling that that's how you end the entire thing, is for the two of them to kill each other. We already talked about like a lot of the pandemonium at the hospital with the other Smiths Grove inmate and the whole mob thing. I really liked Laurie and Frank when they had another moment towards the end of the film when we get the exposition that Frank pushed Dr. Loomis from shooting Michael. And Frank says it needs to die, like it needs to. And Laurie says it needs to die, and I'm the one who has to do it. I was like, God, I love her. Like, she just, something about her in this movie, man. I loved it. Like, I want more of that Laurie Strode, like that confident but emotional. I want that, man. There was something about her. She was my favorite character, and she was in the movie less than anybody. But she was my favorite character in this movie. She really was.
Would you have rather have her more in the movie if that was the Laurie you're gonna get, or are you okay with her being sidelined?
I'm okay with what we got because I think she was sidelined. They had to bench her for this.
Yeah,
one.
they had to bench.
They had to throw
the
B team in.
Yeah,
varsity was done, and they had to throw in the freshman team now.
Yeah, pretty much. That's how it went. And unfortunately, they got a good lead, and they said, okay, B team, you can go in and finish the job. And they're like, oh shit, now we're down 3 points. Okay, A team's got to go back in. We got to go in. Yeah. We got to do something. So I think this will be interesting to see how Halloween Ends comes into play, but we'll talk more about that later.
Yeah.
But I mean, I would love to talk about like the younger generation in the movie, like Allison and Cameron. How well were they written in the movie?
That's kind of where we're getting, is to the point where Lonnie and Tommy and Allison kind of go to the when they stumble upon, Lonnie's got the map, and he's like, if you track from Laurie's compound to the older couple, which we haven't even talked about all of the kills yet in this movie. Yeah. We have a few things we haven't gotten to yet. To the people down the street from Laurie, to here, to there, and he's like, it's a straight line.
Big John and Little John.
He's going home. I know we haven't gotten to Big John and Little John yet. When he says we're going home, I hated Cameron in 2018. I thought he was a douche, which I think everybody did. I ended up liking Cameron, and I felt awful for Cameron the way he died. I really
tough break,
man. That was really tough.
It hit me today.
The toughest death in the movie for me.
Yeah. Was it confirmed in 2018 that Cameron was the son of Lonnie?
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that. I must have missed that, because when that got entered in the beginning of the movie, I was like, wait, what? I guess it makes sense. I guess that's why they should date. I guess. I don't know.
And we should have thought about this or talked about this when we were talking about the flashback. I actually kind of felt bad for Lonnie. I liked Lonnie in this movie because in the original, Lonnie's a dick. You only
Yeah.
get Lonnie like once or twice, and of course he pushes Tommy down and breaks his pumpkin, and then Michael grabs him, and then he runs away, and then you get Loomis. Get your ass away from there! Like that's
Yeah.
all we
Yeah.
get is Lonnie. Like, and I assume one of those kids is Ray, Allison's
True.
dad. I assume one of those is Ray
Yeah.
with Lonnie. I liked that we saw Lonnie was bullied, so it was like Lonnie was coping with his bullying. Lonnie, you're so scrawny, like that kind of thing. Those kids, I was like, shut up.
Oh
Like,
my God. If I
I
was a
was
kid in
like,
the 80s, knowing what I am now, oh my God, I would not be bullied.
I was like, that's so, that whole thing that she said to him, I was like, that's so mean.
Yeah.
Like who says that to somebody? I don't remember exactly what she says, but I really like that, seeing that exposition with Lonnie too.
Mhm.
Even the moment when he trips and he's like, oh, or whatever, and he leans or he like rolls over and Michael's walking towards him and he like, you know, he covers his eyes and he's like, I'm so sorry I bullied Tommy Doyle. I was mean to him. I'm sorry. Don't kill me.
He
Don't
was
kill me,"
like,
or whatever.
he was basically like, confess your sins before you die. It was like,
And it's just funny. I feel like Michael walked up to him and he was like, I'll allow it.
I'll allow it. Yeah.
And he just like turns around and walks home. Like that was it. Yeah, that's a good point, Art. Art says the best characters make an impact no matter how small their role is. And that's a perfect way to describe Lori, man. I felt like Lori was the strongest character of the movie, and she was barely in it.
Yep.
I mean, I felt like Lori was more powerful in this movie than she was in 2018, in all of 2018. And I liked her in 2018, but it just, I don't know. Lori hit different in this one. Like,
Lori hit different.
She
Yeah.
just did. So,
But Allison and Cameron, I think
let's keep going with Allison and Cameron.
I think overall, yeah, they wrote Cameron in to be much better of a human being and
Redemption arc.
Yeah, but I remember thinking in my head, I was like, I remember you heard me say it. I was thinking to myself whenever Allison and Cameron decided, like, they meet up in the hospital and Allison was still pissed off that he kissed another girl, and then something, I guess some words were exchanged and then automatically they like reconciled. I said, "Oh shit, that's all it takes."
About him.
Yeah.
And you got to think Allison had just lost her dad.
Yeah.
Her grandmother, she didn't know if she was going to survive. She just encountered this awful dude. I mean, and that was another thing.
Dude,
we didn't even mention that. I loved seeing, because of course you have to think in 2018, a lot of people complained in Halloween 2018 that Allison and Karen didn't show any emotion when Ray died, but you have to think, I mean,
they were in the depths of it. They were in the thick of it.
I mean, you're in like your adrenaline is pumping,
yeah.
Your blood is pumping, you're afraid, you're just trying to make it, you're not even thinking straight. So I love that when we got to the hospital, Karen really, like, when she was washing the blood off of her wedding ring,
yeah,
it really kind of like sunk in that her husband was gone. And Allison, like, when
that
Lonnie
was the adrenaline wearing off,
like,
and she was actually like gathering what the fuck just happened.
When Lonnie and Cameron and Allison were in the car, and Lonnie was like, "Yeah, we used to do peyote together," and talking about them fishing and being high, and she started crying. I really enjoyed seeing Allison and Karen kind of have that moment of vulnerability and of kind
You're
of
lost. Yeah,
they're lost. Like, their loss really like hit them.
Yeah, and
it was like they were calm enough that it was like, okay, they can breathe now. You know what I mean? They're safe, or so they thought. So yeah, I really enjoyed that moment too. Big John and Little John. Before we start talking more,
let's talk about the extra characters, guys, because I love them. They were great.
Big John and Little John were awesome. I think everybody loved them, and I didn't realize.
No, some people actually didn't like Big John and Little John. They thought they were just obnoxious and out of place.
They spent a lot of time. That was the only thing that I was kind of unsure. They spent a lot of time with Big John and Little John, but it was okay. I didn't mind it. It wasn't a complaint. It wasn't one of the things that I was like, I don't like this at all.
Yeah.
That I put in my notes.
I really feel for Big John and Little John because they literally got that house on a special deal, great
Well,
discount. And when they signed the contract, the fine print probably says might get killed by a serial killer. Cool, sign that shit away. We got this house 40% off. I'm good with that.
I didn't realize this until last night, but I also saw on the bench outside when Tommy pulls up in his car and he says, I need some good, strong people. If you're not joining us, you need to go home and lock your doors and, like protect yourself.
Yeah.
On the bench, they were realtors. Big John and Little John were realtors, which makes sense why they'd be in the Myers house.
Yeah.
Because nobody
Wow,
else
holy
wants.
shit.
I mean, nobody else wants to live in there. Like Brackett says in the original, every kid in Haddonfield thinks that place is haunted. Like, I mean, it makes sense of why they would be the ones to live in there because they're like, this guy's in prison. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Very, very lackadaisical. They didn't really see. I wonder. I would think everyone got that notification on their phone. You would think they got that notification on their phone. If I got that notification, I'd be like, Big John? Yeah, Little John? We need to get the fuck out of here. Like, I would immediately pack my shit.
Big John
high off his ass.
He was too busy getting high and listening to The Nightmare Before Christmas on vinyl.
I know, right? I
Like
was so
upstairs.
thrown off by that. And just that scene right there, which, by the way, one of the best scenes of writing was with, I don't know which one it was. I think it was Little John. But when he finds Big John and he sees Michael just staring out in the window, and Little John just says in the most surreal voice ever, he says, "Michael, you've come home." Yeah. That right there was so anticipated. It was so suspenseful. It was like, holy shit, his mission is finished, so to speak.
His goal is done. The way that I loved that when he said Michael and he just kind of turned his head and he said, "You've come home," and he like turned his whole body and just stood there for a minute.
Yeah.
And you just got like plain Michael, like kind of not hunched over, but just his arms just kind of like, if you ever noticed, his arms just kind of dangle. Like they don't really, his arms just kind of dangle in front of him. Mm-hmm. And then of course you get the exterior where we pull out from the Myers house and you get the exterior of him walking towards him and you hear him scream. Also, Big John's death, I was like, ugh! That was one of the times. That was one of the few times where I was like, oh, like why? Mm-hmm. Because not only he gets the armpit stab, but when he pushed his thumbs and like it started squeezing, I was like, oh,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
Oh no, that's bad. Like that was not good. And of course, I probably for me, the most suspenseful moment took place in the Myers house. And that's when they hear Lonnie scream, which I thought it was kind of sad. As soon as Lonnie said, when he put his hand on Cameron's shoulder and said, "I'll see you on the other side, bud," or whatever.
I knew he was dying right there. I was
like, Lonnie's about to die.
Yep.
And the most suspenseful moment for me was the unkillable scene, which of course is the track, which we'll talk about the score in a minute. Good Lord.
That track right there, fucking fire. Yep.
When they're kind of creeping around the house, that was very suspenseful. I had genuine suspense. I was like, is he going to be in the closet? We've seen the closet 3 times. Is he going to be in it? Or it was like going up the stairs. Allison finding them dead. Which I guess she pulled the knife out for the extra weapon.
I guess. I guess. I'm not sure what her intentions were for pulling out the knife.
I remember my parents, as soon as she pulled out the knife, my parents went, "Why?" Like, why?
You have a shotgun.
I don't know.
Yeah, it was one of those scenes. It was like, which also, by the way, something we keep like, I don't know, people don't really like mention it all the time. Michael Myers is really into theatrics. He's really into putting on a show.
Playful, and we'll talk about that in a minute because I want to go back to some of the kills towards the end. What was I going to say? But also Cameron, I felt really bad for Cameron, man, because so he just heard his dad. He knows his dad is dead somewhat. Mm-hmm. And when he sees the blood dripping on his hand and he looks up, he just saw his father dead. Mm-hmm. And then Michael comes charging out of the closet. And then the unkillable piece of music comes on, which is my favorite track from the entire thing. So Michael pushes him against the wall, stabs him twice. And then obviously he throws him on the ground, and that's when he like is jamming his head in between all of the the things on the stairs, and I was just like,
Yeah, that's probably one of the most gruesome deaths right
I mean,
there,
I
bar
was like,
none.
wow. And Allison got a couple of stabs in on Michael too. I think
She
she got
did.
3 good times
Yeah.
before he like pushed her and grabbed her hand and he slammed her or whatever. She goes tumbling down the stairs. And of course, we talked about this earlier. Cameron is probably the most memorable death from the movie.
Because
Just
he was
because
still breathing.
it was just like
Michael
he
just knocked the air out of him at the time. Just knocked it. Like he's like you guys know if you guys have fell off a tree or like you fell somewhere and you landed straight on your back and you get the
yeah.
breath, you lose your breath. That was literally Cameron for like a solid minute and a half. Like he was trying to recover. And then Michael just like, nope. He
Well,
said, psych.
and he was doing that to rub it in. And I think
Yeah.
that's where this Michael is different from a lot of other iterations of that character from other sequels.
This Michael was
Is
doing stuff out of spite.
he wasn't just doing it to do it. He did it out of spite. He did it like he looked at Allison, like he wanted her to see it. He got kind of playful. Let's talk about the kills a little bit while we're here, because a couple of things.
Let's start off with the most exciting opening I've ever seen of Michael Myers in the fucking burning house. Because yeah, we didn't even talk about that yet.
We didn't talk about that scene.
When he walked out of that burning house, I looked at you and I said, "This is the tone." I said, "Here we go. Here comes the bout."
Well, and
like,
not only that, I will
golly.
say, leading up to that, I loved the pacing. And I know the pacing and the editing kind of got choppy as the film went on. But at the beginning, I loved how we started out with Hawkins saying it needs to die. We cut into the flashback, of course, giving the Hawkins expedition. Then we cut to the bar. And I love that when Tommy says, you know, this is for Lori wherever she is. Boom. And we cut to Lori on the back of the truck, bleeding and her screaming no. And then we cut to the burning house. And I thought that was so perfect. Like, that's some of my favorite pacing and my favorite editing from the entire franchise, to be completely honest. I loved it. Some of the shots of the firefighters in the house was amazing too.
Yeah.
It was really, really nice.
They were literally walking into a failed mission from the get-go. I mean, even if Michael Myers was not there, the firefighters pretty much knew that this house was done for. There was nothing stopping that fire. But then when one of the 4 firefighters fell through the hole, and when we find out how Michael survived that, I love how he just knew where that button was. It just went shrink, and there was Michael. I was like, well, Michael ain't stupid. He knew where to go, and unfortunately, no one knew what happened. And when the second firefighter was trying to find the initial one, it's a shame that he didn't know who he was reaching his hand out to.
Yeah,
and just the way how the firefighters did not know what the hell was going on. So those 2 firefighters were done deal, and then everyone else was going in. They were getting their pickaxe ready to save those 2, but then they hear screamings, and then the firefighters are just like,
well. One of the things that I loved about the firefighter stuff is, we saw a lot from their perspective. We saw from their perspective the getting foggy and the smoke and the condensation and them trying to like find their way through. When he reaches his hand down and you just see a silhouette, you can't tell. I mean, we can tell it's Myers, obviously, but he couldn't at the time. We even saw a lot of the death scenes from their perspective, like the halogen coming into you know the helmets and things like that. I know with the saw, when he kind of brought the saw down on top of the other guy, we saw that sideways from another firefighter's perspective who was dying. I mean, things like that. I thought that was a really, really cool, creative way to show that scene.
I'm sorry, Jamie. You definitely shouldn't have seen this movie. You definitely should not have seen this movie. Those poor firefighters get absolutely wrecked. Which, by the way, I've gone through plenty of like firefighters like, hey, come look at what we do and how our job consists of. I've heard so many like comments about firefighters, and they've told me themselves. They said that their fire hoses can peel skin. Their pressures can peel skin. Whatever the fuck that firefighter had was damn near comparison to a water gun. Did not do anything
It
to
didn't
Michael.
even phase him. He was just like non-stop. Great white shark walking forward.
A typical like fire hose would have easily have pushed him back. We've seen it in riots. You know, we've seen in riots how like how the water hoses can knock people off their asses. And then you get the fucking water gun hose. I was like, of all the hoses you have in your hand right now for a fire, you get the water gun looking one. I was like, when I saw that water go out, I was like, oh, that man's getting clapped. 100%. I was at least hoping for a decent fight because you saw how prepared they was. They literally saw Michael walk out of that house with a halogen from a burning house. Each one of them got an axe. Old boy ripped the chainsaw up. He says, okay, fuck the fire. We're going to war right now. I was hoping for at least more of a fight than the fucking mob at the end.
Well,
I was expecting more of a bout between those two, but no. Michael Myers just cleaned them up like it was a fucking gravy off a Thanksgiving plate. I was like, whoa. I was like, whoa, just mop them up. Mop them up like vomit in a schoolyard. It was like, yo, what is going on? Left and right. Michael was like John Wick dodging axe left and right. Just going,
he did too.
Wow.
Man, he like they would swing the axe and he was like, and then he would stab. Or Michael was on it, man.
For a mental patient, man, what they give Michael in the hospital, like martial arts book, Dr. Loomis would not allow that at all. What did he do? Did he learn jujitsu in the fucking hospital? Because my God, he walked out of that thing ready for a bout. And those poor firefighters, man, you got to feel for them, man. They really tried. I'm sure they weren't prepared for anything like that at all. They probably weren't ready for Daenerys Targaryen's husband to walk out of the fucking burning house.
It's
my
funny
God.
Because at one point my dad looked at me when we first cut to the firefighters trying to make their way through the house, and when the guy fell through the floor, my dad leaned over and said, they would have never gone in that house. It was burning way too hot. It was gone. That house was gone. There is no way that they would have
That's what I mean. Like willingly. The firefighters walked in knowing this was going to be a failed mission. Not failed in this perspective we saw, but they knew it was going to be a failed mission with the way the house was completely engulfed.
I loved seeing when we get Michael kind of emerging from the smoke. I love seeing the firefighters kind of doing their thing and getting all their gear, and it was kind of like they
heard the scream.
They heard the scream, but when they saw him coming out, it was kind of like,
that's not one of us.
They kind of had a moment of panic, like, what do we do? What's the procedure? Like,
what's the procedure?
What do we do?
What's the procedure, guys?
What do we do? And it was, you saw them, like, the one guy, like, he picked up his axe, and the one guy revved the chainsaw, like,
I guess we're fighting.
like I don't know what to do.
One of the guys in the back of the firefighters, they were like, I don't see this in the book. This isn't in the book. This isn't in the book.
I don't know what to do.
Where is it in the book?
Frank, what's going on, man? Thankfully, he didn't do Busta Rhymes.
Busta Rhymes really should have made a cameo somewhere in this movie.
Busta Rhymes should have been a firefighter.
Yes, 100%.
Oh,
Tommy,
man.
It should have been Busta Rhymes other than Tommy. Oh my God. Yeah. Busta Rhymes is the only person I know to run a fade on Michael Myers and successfully do it. Oh my goodness.
Well, and I even kind of like that we didn't see every single firefighter's death. We saw a lot of them that we saw in the trailer, and there were a couple of extra ones. But when Sheriff Barker and all of his deputies and the paramedics and everybody else, and Laurie's house is burned down. We had a Sartain, his head was stomped in. There were a few different kills that I was like, oh, we didn't see that. Like, we didn't even see that one happen.
Yeah. I loved how quick.
It was crazy.
I love how quick they were ready to be like, announce everything. They're like, call the bulletin, call a full out bolo. Like, this is happening now. Like, Michael's is now on the loose. They really set the tone. This is find everyone, pull everyone in. Get whatever county we have close to us. Pull as many resources as we can. Which, by the way, the National Guard near Haddonfield, slow as fuck. I'm gonna say that
What
right
about
now.
the National Guard? Wouldn't they have called the state police in?
State police, National Guard, something. They would have came within an hour. I know this movie didn't take place in a span of an hour. Took about a couple hours throughout the night.
Oh, it's probably about 4 hours total.
Yeah, the National Guard should have already been there.
Yeah.
But hey, I guess a supernatural serial killer isn't National Guard material enough. I guess they're probably the call came in and they're like, okay, what level is this? Okay, we don't need to go yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, with the whole scene, whenever the sheriffs were coming out, it was like, holy shit.
The Oct, what's going on? He said it's a good
Yeah.
thing the firefighters and the angry mob all attacked Michael one at a time, Bruce Lee movie style. Yeah.
It really was. It really was.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I hate all the time with these types of fight scenes where it's like one person waits at a time. You saw that at the end with Tommy. Like whenever he kills Brackett, Tommy just sitting there like this. He's like,
Tommy was
that happened.
shell-shocked.
Shell-shocked.
We'll talk about those final couple of scenes at the end. But we're right. Okay, if you're just joining us, we're talking about some of the kills in the movie. We've talked about Big John, Little John. We talked about Cameron, the firefighters. Another thing, a couple of other things that struck me as strange. I liked it. It kind of adds to Myers' lore and kind of the mystery of like, why is he doing that? I noticed with Marion, when Marion's hanging from the swing, and Vanessa and her husband, when they're on the, what's that circle thing called?
I don't know.
I don't know. That you twirl on.
Merry-go-round.
He had candy sprinkled underneath of them. Did you notice that? There was candy along Vanessa and her husband's body, and there was candy on the mulch by the swings under Marion. Like,
I told you, he's about that theatrics.
like he
man.
kind
I
of got a
don't know
little
what it
playful.
is.
Another one that kind of shocked me it did kind of shock me. The couple closer to Laurie's compound, which I liked. She was funny. And if you don't remember, I forget her name, the character's name. She is the one that takes the investigative journalists to Judas' grave in Halloween 2018. Yeah. That's her. So she kind of came back. She had a kind of cameo
I love their little banter between.
Their banter was funny.
Yeah, she said the husband was like, "Lori's just a weird ass bitch," and then the wife was like, "Yeah, but she'll fuck your ass up." I was like,
that was funny. Yeah, she said that
like,
woman.
"You go, girl." Hey, you go, girl. And then
the Cameron kill was intense. Oh yeah, man, we talked about that a lot. That was the most impactful kill of the movie for me. Art Sandra, thank you so much. It's Sandra. You're correct. Okay. I liked that whole scene. This sleep apnea mask smells like your mother, or whatever, like that. Like that was funny.
Mm-hmm. Whenever they find Michael and he locks the door,
I liked when he smashes the light. Like that was really cool.
Ooh, that was scary. That was a good jump scare as well.
That was a good scare. I liked when he pulled him back through the glass. That was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Michael likes pulling people through anything.
He does.
Yeah.
When he stabbed her in the throat, that was the first, because he twisted. that was the first time I was like, here's where
Michael
we're going.
Enjoys
like this is where we're going.
Yeah.
Like this is crazy. But the thing that got me is not only was Sandra, I felt really bad for them. Not only was Sandra watching her husband die, I believe he was dead at that point. I don't think when Michael was stabbing him, I think he was already gone.
Yeah.
Which again kind of adds to the whole, why is Michael doing this? He stabbed him with like 4 different knives, man.
Yeah, we finally got to see
one, and then he'd slowly kind of turn and look at it, and then do it again, and then he would grab another one and kind of look at it like almost if he was like, yeah, that'll do, and then he'd go again. And I was just like, that's strange. Like, why is he doing that? And it kind of, I liked it. It added to the whole mystery and kind of the lore of like this. It's just strange. It's weird.
It's mainly because I liked it because I finally got to see him prop up his victims. You know what I mean? Because every time he killed someone, you always saw them propped up. You saw him die, but you didn't see how Michael propped him up. This was one of the scenes where
that's true.
Michael literally propped him up and put him up for show, pretty much. And it was pretty interesting to see that because you got to see Michael as he is after the death, after saying the fact.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because can you imagine how
And J-Dad says Michael is like a child in many ways. He's just got the strength of something supernatural, and that's what they believe. I don't remember who said it, but somebody said it where it's like
Hawkins.
he's Hawkins. Yes,
Yeah.
Hawkins did say it. Frank said he's like a 6-year-old trapped in a giant man's body, or in a grown man's body with this supernatural evil strength to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's true. So yeah, there were a couple of things like that he kind of got playful. The dropping the candy, stabbing the guy a bunch of different times. Cameron even kind of really trying to be almost sarcastic and spiteful with Allison watching Cameron die. I mean, it was just things like that. It kind of added to his
because Michael knows those 3 women. Michael knows that those 3 women are the 3 women that got the best of him. They're the only 3. So obviously Michael's more antagonized with them. So obviously Michael's trying to prove a point now at that point in time.
It was it made him a lot more it made him a lot eerier and a lot creepier, I think, in those scenes because of that. So let's kind of talk about the last act of the movie. So obviously we talked Cameron and Allison in the Myers house. Let me get this chat a little bit. Another new little thing we learn about Michael, I guess. Yeah, it's just another little thing.
Exactly. That's something I loved the most about it, was the fact that I was scared of there being too much exposition to Michael's backstory, but it gave enough. It gave you like a little. It gave the Salt Man sprinkle of exposition, and it says, "There you go." I'm okay with that. I didn't want to know the full story. I didn't want no white horse. I didn't want no white ghostly mother. I just want to know. Okay, he's fucked up, and this is why he does what he does.
Yeah.
But we still don't know as to what happened to him. It just there's
not even really a why though. There's no why.
It's literally how Hawking's partner said. He says just one day he snapped.
Yep.
We don't know what happened.
Halloween Best Kill says, I love the pumpkin titles. Yeah, we didn't even talk about the pumpkin title sequence. That was really cool too. All of the
I was counting every single one of them, trying to see I was trying to like connect some dots, be like, okay, how many pumpkins are there? Is that how many deaths there are in this movie? I was doing that.
I don't think it was that. I thought that was really cool though. I enjoyed that. So obviously right after the Cameron death scene, after Michael, she's screaming, do it or whatever, and Allison's taunting him, and her and Michael kind of have that moment. I liked that we kind of had the foreshadowing moment when Big John is kind of scraping the knife or whatever on the pitchfork. That was kind of a foreshadowing moment to Karen stabbing him and pushing him down. I don't know why. She had Michael on the ground and she head stomped him. I would have taken that pitchfork and been like, I mean, just keep going, man.
Nailed him to the steps.
Keep going. Like, I don't know why she stopped.
I think it's because it's because she knows she doesn't have the strength to kill Michael.
Well, and
possibly the mob could have done something worse.
She was trying to lead him to the mob.
Yeah,
they had that plan. Her and
because
Tommy
think about
had
it.
That plan.
Because think about it. If Karen was able to like stab him and then stab him in the head, knowing Michael, he probably would have gotten back up and just ripped it out of his face. And if she would have done that, and picked up Allison and tried to walk out, either her or both of them would have died immediately.
Yeah,
because he would have been back up and just stabbed them. So it kind of makes sense for Karen to be like, okay, he's down. Let me take the mask and try to pull him out. Right. Which, by the way, that interaction between one of them was pretty cringy, but it made sense, so to speak, because it gave
what Karen's dialogue when she's
talking to
there, like holding it up. Yeah, I thought it was okay. I really liked her delivery of that line when she says, "You want your mask?" And she had some gritty. She was like, "Come and get it!" Like, I really enjoyed the way she said that. When she started talking about, like, do you remember, Michael? Judith, you did it tonight, 40 years ago. I was like, okay,
yeah.
He knows, like, he did it. He knows, like, he remembers. Yeah. Like, I'm pretty sure that's why he keeps wanting to go back to that spot. Like, he remembers. Yeah. But yeah, it was cool. I liked how she led him back. It was
that
really
chasing again, pretty eerie and good.
I knew she was leading him somewhere, because it wasn't like she wasn't running because she was scared. She wanted him to chase her.
Yeah,
very purposeful in everything that she did. And I liked seeing him walk in that shot of him walking in between the houses, maskless. Again, we talked about this earlier. You saw when the cars turn around and the headlights kick on, and Brackett and Tommy and everybody walks out, and of course she says "Gotcha." She says it again. You see the burned half of his face when he turns, and then you see the bullet, the nick from the bullet on his cheek. I loved when he picked up the mask and he went to pull it over his head that you saw like that much of his face.
Yeah.
Like you saw his eye, you saw the burns, how bloody he was. He looked awful. He looked terrible by the end of this movie. You know what I mean?
Into the ringer. Yeah.
Yeah. What did you think about them beating the crap out of him in that scene?
I
when
thought
they just
it
went
was
ham.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting because of knowing what happened after, was knowing like how flawlessly he was able to do it. It was almost as if Michael Myers was really analytical with it. He was almost like analyzing the situation and how he can get out. It was interesting because he was like, okay, let me just take these beatings and let them think I'm dying, because he really wasn't going for it. You saw him; he was just like.
Do you think he let them do that?
I think so. I think he probably did.
I mean, they didn't even just punch him and hit him and stab him. He took bullets. He took it like 4 or 5 shots to like his abdomen and to his arm. And I know one hit him in the shoulder, one hit him in the arm. And I believe some others hit him like on the side of his body as well.
Yeah, after he cut that individual, he unloaded that clip right into his torso, and he just fell to the ground point blank, and he just kept getting beaten down on. And obviously, Michael Myers is still like, trying to grab for the knife, and Karen obviously goes for this.
He was like his
quote unquote,
his 3 fingers are like,
please. Just grab it. It's where he gets his powers. It's like He-Man. He's like, I have the power.
Yeah.
But
I kind of almost wanted Karen to like step on his hand, like just to like rub it in, and then for her to grab the knife. And again, it's almost a double-edged sword, because in that scene I was almost like, don't kill him. Like,
he's
I love
already
the character, man. Like,
dead.
don't kill him. But of course, like somebody said in the chat earlier, that's an interesting thought. Like, he almost died, but like, of course, then we cut to Laurie saying, the more he kills, the more he transcends into something else, into something more supernatural, more evil. So it's almost like he was reborn a little, not reborn, but
he's like Super Mario Bros. Where he gets mushroom. He goes, whoop, 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 whoop. And
his health bar went.
Yeah, and then when he got knocked down, his thing was like, or something like that. I don't fucking know. Like his health bar literally just went, scoop. It was like a Call of Duty thing. It's like, when you get hit a lot of times, it's like all red and shit, and it's like, and then you're like, okay, clear vision. Now let's kick some ass.
It's like the Resident Evil thing pops up. You have died. The red screen, like, and then it's like never mind.
While Michael is down, he's only like crushing up some herbs. Like, okay, I gotta heal up. Okay, I'm ready to go. Let's go, Brackett.
Well, and you guys, please, if you're watching, by the way, leave us a like if we really appreciate that. But let us know in the chat what you think. Do you think that this film 150% solidifies the fact that Michael is supernatural? Because he took a lot right there in that scene. I mean, not like, obviously when it's just Laurie, it's one thing, but Tommy was hitting him.
Yeah. He got hit with an iron.
The mob was hitting him. He was being shot. He was being stabbed. I mean, it was just like, wow. I mean, part of me actually was like, is this how it's going to end? Like, are they going to take him to the hospital? I mean, is he going to pass out? Like, I mean, he looked down for the count. Even when his hand, those 3 fingers, when he was reaching out, I mean, he was like trembling, like he couldn't, he didn't have the strength anymore. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I do think, I know a lot of people kind of say, what if Michael has some medical thing where he can't feel pain? I think he does feel pain though, because he grunts. when Karen shot him and it grazed his cheek, he grunted.
Bro, when Karen literally stabbed him with a pitchfork, you saw him. He was like,
Yeah.
You saw him. He was like, oh, that doesn't
Even
feel good
when
at all.
he was like trying to get up, and when she stomped his head on the step, he was like,
yeah,
he kind of went lifeless for a minute. Like, I'm just gonna lay here.
Yeah,
give me a second.
He said, let me get my herbs real quick.
You know what I like too is when he got up from the steps and Karen had he realized that Karen was holding the mask. He did this. He went. he turned his head.
Yeah.
No, you did not.
Yeah, he did.
Give that back. That's not yours.
Yep, he really did.
He had a certain look to him that was just kind of like.
He really does love that mask, man.
You're playing, man.
Yeah.
Don't do this to me. Now, I will say, obviously, at that point, towards the end, we get Karen back with Allison. Karen stabs him. She's back with Allison. I thought when Karen looks up, which, of course, it's cinematic. It's a metaphor.
It was a cinematic choice there.
It's cinematic language. When she looks up and she sees young Michael Myers in the window, I thought that was kind of unnecessary. I was like,
a little bit.
I feel like we didn't need to see that.
I mean, it could make sense to him saying like, now Michael is just a ghost. Now that his spirit is now just pondering the entire town of Haddonfield. It's no longer a human being after that. I don't know.
Yeah. I almost feel like it would have been the same. It would have had the same effect if Karen would have just looked up at the empty window.
Yeah.
I think it would have had the same exact effect as her seeing young Michael in the window. Like, it just, she didn't know what young Michael looked like. You know what I mean? So it was kind of like, why? Yeah. Like,
she's not connected to this story strange. All that well. Yeah.
Yeah. Other than her mom, she really has no, and the events of the last 4 or 5 hours, she really has no connection. I was going
to say the only connection she has with that was probably Tommy when he like explained where he was going.
Yeah.
Or whoever explained to Karen that, because she went to Michael's home for a reason. Like she knows what was going on.
Right.
And that's the only connection she has towards that. So for her to be able to see young Michael in the windows, it was a choice, but I mean I don't really see any reason as to why she would be able to see her. But are we now going to talk about like the end of Halloween Kills? Because I think that one is probably the most controversial moment of the entire movie as a whole.
Yeah. So a couple of things here. If you don't know, they said that on the Blu-ray, when this releases on Blu-ray, there will be an extended ending. Now, the original ending it is canon. Had Laurie calling Karen. And of course, Michael kills Karen. She hears Michael breathing. And that's when we get the scene from the trailer of Laurie walking down the hall in the hospital saying, "I'm coming for you, Michael." And that was the original ending. Now, for whatever reason, and I'm sure they have a reason for it, they decided to end it with Michael killing Karen, which I thought my biggest issues with the end of this film were Tommy and Karen's death scenes. And I've seen a lot of people speculate that maybe they're not really dead.
Oh, like it's
a metaphor, or Laurie was imagining it, or something like that. I don't think that that's the case.
No, I think it's been confirmed I think it's been confirmed by the writers and directors that Karen is dead. Like, she is canonically dead.
I'm sorry, guys.
Karen is canonically dead. Like, she really kicked the bucket. And Tommy's dead as well.
I think
100%.
My 3 biggest problems with the ending, it wasn't that it ended with Karen's death. That didn't bother me. I liked the last shot of Michael with the mask. There's blood like oozing down the mask. There's blood oozing down the mask, and Michael's just looking out the window, and then boom, we cut to Halloween Kills, and that's the end. I didn't have a problem with that. I thought that was cool. What bothered me was there were a few things. When Michael, obviously we knew Michael was going to come back after the mob killed him. It was too quick. I felt like the ending happened too quickly. There wasn't enough there. I think that's where I think what I said at the beginning of the show, when I said that I feel like this movie could have really benefited from having maybe 10 extra minutes interspersed in different moments, not 10 minutes tacked on to the end. But I think this is one of those moments. The death of the mob brackets death.
Should have been way played out more.
Tommy's death, especially because Tommy, that moment, and there was a little bit of breathing room and a little bit of kind of a moment between him and Michael, because obviously Tommy, this is Tommy coming face to face with the boogeyman again. This is Tommy facing his biggest fear when Michael has stabbed him and they're kind of looking at each other. And there's that moment where they're kind of looking in each other's eyes. And then, of course, we see Michael with the bat, which I thought was kind of funny, too. Michael standing there like, hey.
Old Huckleberry.
I know.
Which is, I think it's a Tombstone reference. It's like in Tombstone with Val Kilmer being like, he's always like, I'll be your Huckleberry. But actually, fun fact, in Tombstone, Val Kilmer's character, he doesn't say, I'll be your Huckleberry. I'll be your Hucklebearer, which a huckle was known back then in Western was a coffin. And a bear, obviously, is like a bear that holds the coffin. So he says, very much says, hey, if you want to do this, I'll hold your coffin for you. I'll hold you to your grave. Yeah, that's pretty much the best way to go about it, which is an interesting little Easter egg. If I'm correct, that's the way it goes.
That's interesting.
But yeah, I felt that Tommy's death really was rather too quick. I would really love for it to be played out a little bit more, just to see more of him succumbing to the fear. Like, he never got over his fear of Michael Myers. He played it out as, oh, I'm no longer afraid of him. It's the prime way of saying, like, it's like you know, it's like the prime reason of like getting over an ex. Is like, you could say like, oh, I'm over her, blah 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 blah, I'm done with her, blah 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 blah, but you'll never be able to fully be over unless you see her and you're able to tell yourself that's over. You know what I mean? Same thing with Tommy. Tommy was over here saying like, hey, I am no longer fearful of this man. He is human. I could take him. He's got the bat. He's talking a big game. But then whenever he finally comes face to face with Michael Myers and he sees the magnitude of his powers, Tommy ends up becoming the little boy again. And he can't overcome the fear that Michael has over him, and thus he loses.
I think
that's the thing that I think that's even more impactful for him. I just wish that would play out a little bit more.
I think even if Tommy and Michael would have scrapped a little bit, even if they would have had a moment where they were really going at it, and then Michael stabs him and Tommy realizes like when they kind of look at each other and they're like breathing in each other's face, and it's like, this is like the boogeyman, like this is it, like, and his, like you said, his fear overtakes him. I think that would have been fine. I think Michael killing the mob, it was too
quick,
it was too flashy, it was too quick. I think that should have been the big moment.
Yeah,
the big like, whoa, like he just killed all of these people.
Yeah, you should see every single kill, kind of the same way the firefighters were. Like, just like have that Unstoppable soundtrack come out and just have them murk every single one of them. Murk the lady that brought the poor iron. I was like, that poor woman. Where are you going with this?
There's now a Facebook group called "The Lady Who Brought an Iron to Fight Michael Myers." But
you saw how ready they were, man. You saw it when Karen was just backing up and letting the group. You saw the woman with the whatever she had, the club, and she was like, I'm ready. You just saw how quick the fear just overcame them when he came back to life. They're like, oh shit, this guy's got lives.
When he pulls the knife out and slits Brackett's throat, that's fine, because that's like, oh, like that was kind of a shock value moment. But I felt like we only got glimpses of him killing the mob, and if they would have stretched that out a little bit, I'm not saying it had to be a gore fest like the firefighters, but even if they just would have stretched it out a little bit, I think it would have had more of a like, whoa, like more of an unsettling impact.
Agreed. Because it would have been much better to see, because we saw the mob in like full like angry mode. I would have loved to see the mob in like full fearful, trying to organize mode. Like, oh god, this is actually happening. How do we do this? Blah blah blah. Okay, it's not working. Go to plan B. Blah 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 blah. Something's going wrong. It's getting worse. It's getting worse. Then we're down to Tommy.
Yeah,
that would have been even much more of a cinematic moment than the initial like angry mob mentality. Because again, it's the whole point of like the mob started out as really angry and fear and not fearful and just upset. And they're like, we're not going to let fear win. But then throughout the movie, guess what? Fear just overcomes them. They make so many mistakes. And then the fear just overtakes them and they end up becoming idle. You know, it's like the fight or flight. Either you run or you fight, or worse, you stand still and you freeze. Like that was something that was I really wish was played out a little bit more, was the amount of fear engulfing the mob.
Yeah, for sure. And another thing that I think I would have added is I think cutting between Laurie's dialogue, because of course Laurie is giving her spiel about you know, the more he kills, the more he transcends. A normal man couldn't have survived that fire.
Mm-hmm.
He's, you know, he's this, he's that, he's whatever. I don't remember exactly everything she says. But of course, we're cutting between Laurie and Karen walking up the stairs and moving across down the hall and into the bedroom and Judith's bedroom in the Myers house and standing at the window. I think for me, at least, it would have been more impactful if we would have had cuts of Karen walking up the stairs and then cut to Michael walking in between houses. And then cutting to Karen going down the hallway, and then cutting to Michael walking across the street, and then cutting
Laurie
to Karen
also like having her thing,
and Laurie still giving her spiel, and of course Karen entering Judith's room, and then you see Michael even walking in a backyard, and it's just like I feel like that would have been like,
oh shit,
no,
here we go,
no,
here we go,
no, and then it's like by the time you get there, he's killing her, and she steps out from behind her, and of course you realize he's back, and he's soaked in blood. Do you think her death scene happened too quickly too?
I think that was just in her contract.
What do you mean?
Like her contract says, no, I don't want a gory death.
That's, I don't know. It could have been. Maybe she didn't. Maybe they didn't want her. Maybe they wanted a little bit of contrast there, where her death you didn't see as much. Mm-hmm. It almost looked like he was just slashing. Like it was almost, like it didn't look like it was anything crazy. It was just kind of like just slashing,
kind of like Judith. Because you know, like
yeah,
in the
but
original,
he was
because in the original, he was just like you just saw this, you saw her like act all like she's dying. It was the same way. Like he was just over here slashing and whatnot, and she was in the same way. It was kind of like a parallel between
You're out, Miguel. Can't hear you. Your mic is off. J-Dad says, got to get back to work. Y'all have a good one. See you, man. Have a good night. Enjoy work. Miguel has lost audio. While we're doing that, let me catch up on the chat while Miguel's figuring this out. My mom says it should have ended with them surrounded by the mob like 78 in front of the house. I didn't care for her going into the house. That would have been a good ending too. If it would have, I mean, how would you guys have felt? And let us know in the chat. If you back? Talk.
I think so.
Okay, yes, you're back. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
My mom said she would have liked it to end with the mob surrounding Michael, and then it just cuts to black, and that's the end.
That would have been. I thought that would have been cool. Interesting. Yeah,
I know. I kind of
like as soon as he put on the mask, I was literally thinking roll credits. I was literally thinking that.
I mean, if he would have put on the mask and kind of turned his head, and maybe you even see Tommy step out with the bat to swing, and then it just boom cuts, Halloween Kills, and like that's the ending. That would have been interesting too. I didn't, again, if they would have had more of a build up to Karen going up the stairs, and of course you're seeing Karen walking up the stairs and Laurie's saying the more he kills, the more he transcends. And you see Michael walking in between houses, and then he's cutting across somebody's front yard and down the street and in somebody's backyard. And it's just like, by the time you realize where he is, he's stepping out from behind Karen and he's there. That just, it would have been really interesting. Julia texted me and said, maybe he stabbed her like that to be like an homage to him first killing Judith.
That's what I said. Yeah? Julia, you better be watching this right now. That's where I just said that. I literally just said that, darling. But yeah, I agree. I think that's literally a good parallel between Judith and Karen, because again, Karen was pretty much saying like, hey, I'm an innocent woman just like just like Judith, take me, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it made sense. And I don't know how far I want to go right now with this, but thinking forward with Halloween Ends, where do we go from here? Honestly, because
I
Michael's
really
mission is
don't know.
over. He's home.
I do want to do another episode because there's been a couple of articles to come out about Halloween Ends. And I want to go through, I want Miguel, and I haven't even talked to you about this, surprise. I want to take an episode and go through everything we know about Halloween Ends. Because I think once we kind of go over that, we can kind of try to make a prediction where Halloween Ends is going to go. I know a lot of people have, what we know right now is that David Gordon Green has said Halloween Ends is more of a contained story. It's not big and crazy stuff happening in the mob and a million people and all these different characters. I think it's going to be more about Laurie and Michael.
Because as she said in her exposition, she was like, if they don't get Michael, we'll have to wait till next Halloween. We'll have to wait till next Halloween.
Oh yeah, yes, that's what she says. Next Halloween, when somebody we might not find him tonight, but next Halloween when somebody is alone,
we'll be ready.
I remember exactly what she says. Next Halloween when somebody is alone and he kills, then we find him, or whatever she says. My mom says, I think you'd be sitting here saying, OMG, you cannot wait for the next one because it would have been such a cliffhanger. Yeah, because you're waiting for him and the mob to just go at it. You know what I mean? Frank agrees. He says, I agree. The ending should have been in an earlier scene. And Halloween Best Kills says yes. So I think that's pretty popular. A lot of people think that the ending should have been earlier. And maybe if we would have even pulled a Scream and the opening scene of Halloween Ends is Karen dying, that would have been like, whoa, like we're in for a
5-year time jump.
I know. And that's the other thing that confuses me is David Gordon Green has said that they're going to factor in the pandemic and everything that's happened politically and things like that, and that we're going to have like a 2 or 3 year time jump. But how do you time, you can't just time jump from what just happened.
Yeah.
And just like, that's the end of the night and then move on, because you have to explain, where does Michael go? Does he
walk back into the forest?
I mean,
I guarantee you. What happens in the next 3 other Halloweens that happens?
Exactly. And that's kind of one of the problems with a lot of the later sequels is it's like, where does he go? Like, why we explain where he is in really stupid ways in a lot of the earlier sequels. So, I mean, you're going to have to explain where he is, where he's been. And I mean, once they realize he's gone, that SWAT team is busting up in his house. Yeah. I mean, it's not like he could just hide in his house and nobody would know. I mean, they're going to have SWAT teams. They're going to have, the FBI would be on this at this point. Like, it's that big of a deal with this many people dead. So I don't know, man.
All major news stations. Yeah, this would 100% be like one of the biggest events that happen. This would be like the massacre. I could see in the newspapers in the movie, massacre at Haddonfield, the Haddonfield massacre or whatever.
I believe the official kill count for this movie is 31. 31 kills.
Shit.
Plus you have Oscar.
Guess what? There's more.
I know you have all of the other ones from the 2018 film too. Oscar, the people at the gas station, his rampage in that tracking shot where he goes through the houses and he kills the old lady with the hammer and he stabs the one in the throat. I mean, there's probably about 40 people that have died tonight, and that's a big deal.
Yeah. Like how does Haddonfield react to that years down the line? How does the US as a whole react to this massacre that happened? Because that would hit all major news stations. That would hit every single corner of everyone's phone. Like, everyone will know about this.
Absolutely.
So it's going to be rather interesting to think that it's going to be a contained story. You kind of can't do that. You kind of open Pandora's box. You can't close that bitch again.
Yeah. And Frank and Art bring up a good point. I imagine there might be some flashbacks to the 2018 timeline. Or, they'll have flashbacks of what happens after Michael kills Karen. Maybe the film does open a few years later and Laurie is thinking about finding out that Karen has died and that Tommy has died. Lindsay finding out that Tommy has died. because I don't know if let me know what you guys thought in the chat. Did you all kind of get the vibe that Tommy and Lindsay had a little bit of a romance? Like, they're not married, but I wonder if they ever had a little bit of a romantic thing going on.
Yeah, there's a little bit of
You know what
emotional
I mean?
connection between one another.
I mean, and
because it's like trauma bond, pretty much.
they're like best friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, they were together the night it happened in the original. You know, whatever. Art says more like 50. The kill count in 2018 is 18. 18?
Jesus, I didn't even count that.
Really? Let's see.
Oh, well, I mean, he killed the 2 police officers. He killed
True.
He killed the father, and he killed Loomis's protege, and he killed the mechanic.
That's true.
He killed the cashier.
That's true.
He killed he killed the 2 people in his little montage.
Yeah.
He killed the babysitter and her boyfriend and the simp. What's his name? I forget. He was in
18. Holy crap. Art, you're right. 18, because you have the police officer 30 minutes in, the kid, the second police officer when the bus crashes, the gas station clerks, the mechanic, the investigative journalists.
Well, we can confirm that he didn't survive that now.
Vicky and Dave.
Mm-hmm.
Vicky and Dave. Dr. Sartain. Yeah, I mean, that's plus Ray. I mean, yeah, that's true. So I mean, it's closer to 50 or more kills in one night. I mean, that would be a really, really big deal.
Yeah. 50 people dead from one man.
I also wondered in Halloween Ends, is there going to be any repercussions on Lori for setting the house on fire?
No.
Why
would they? No.
I don't know, because Lori's a little crazy. Like,
Lori's
a little bit of...
Lori's literally going to be held accountable for what happened, so to speak. If they can't get Michael, they're going to get on Lori, because Tommy's dead, the man who instigated, and then you have Lori, who they were all rallying behind. So obviously someone has to pay the price. And I think the sheriff, what's his name?
Barker.
Is going to have to save face and make someone accountable for it. And I think that's going to be Lori.
Well, I think it's his fault more than it is Lori's.
Well, obviously,
at least Lori tried multiple times to kill him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you get how they're going to try to spin it against Lori,
right, and they will try to spin it against her.
Yeah,
I still don't see how it's her fault though, unless they reveal that Lori is the reason the bus crashed, which I don't think that's. I don't. Originally, I thought, they're going to reveal that she made the bus crash. She wanted him to escape, but I don't think it was a shock to her. I think she was shocked when she's sitting there cleaning her guns. She's cleaning her shotgun in her kitchen or whatever, and she hears the bus crash, and she like stops and she looks up at the TV, and that's when she realizes, like, holy crap! Like, I think there was panic that set over her when she realized that. So I think it was probably Sartain. Sartain wanted the bus to crash because Sartain wanted
like
to
in the interrogation, like they were asking, like, how did Michael's get to you guys? And Allison was like, it wasn't Michael. Michael was just an instrument.
Right.
Sartain was the one who brought Michael and Lori back together. And
that was an interesting little piece of dialogue too, because there was a lot of talk about Michael's motive. Because Karen's like, he's coming to the hospital. He wants Lori. And Tommy says, how do you know he wants Lori? Like, how do you know that? And of course, Allison is like, no, but Sartain brought him to Lori. Michael wasn't seeking Lori. He wasn't like escaping to find out where Lori was. It was just fate that the two of them ended up together. Yeah. And I've said this before. I said this on our first episode of Purely and Simply Evil when we did the watch along. I think that moment when Michael pushes the shotgun, her and Michael are holding the shotgun and he pushes her up against the wall. When he cocks his head, I always kind of took that as like, that's when he realizes who she is. Like, he remembers her in that moment.
But guess what? He doesn't go after Lori in Halloween Kills. He just has a mission.
He might be now. I think at this point he might be like, if he sees her, he's going to kill her. But I do think he just wants to go home, and that's interesting. That's a very interesting kind of piece of Michael Myers lore that we've never gotten before. So Halloween Best Kill says it was my favorite Halloween movie. Yeah, man.
Now it's time for us to have our Final opinion.
I know. I'm looking over my notes to see if there was anything we missed. We're over 2 hours right now. We're at 2 hours and 5 minutes. If you're hanging out with us, thank you so much for sticking with us tonight. Please leave us a like. If you have not already, please consider subscribing to our channel. We really thank you guys for hanging out with us. I'm just trying to look over my notes. Miguel, any final thoughts? Any closing thoughts? Not necessarily final thoughts, but just closing thoughts on Halloween Kills.
I think overall, look, I get that it was I get why this is probably controversial, and I've said this to you and on the podcast a number of times. I said this is either going to be one of the best movies in the franchise or the most controversial. And I think we're leaning more towards the most controversial one right now because it's pretty split down the middle. I mean, when the day it came out, me and Brad were trying to stay off social media because we didn't want to see or hear any type of potential spoilers. Literally, me, Brad, and Julie were having dinner, and Brad said something about the movie, and me and Julie were like, "Brad, put the phone down," because he was just like, "I'm sorry, I was just scrolling." I was like, "Yeah, you were just scrolling. You're gonna get spoiled." But yeah, overall, I mean, I luckily wasn't spoiled at all with this movie. But I did see how controversial people were and how split down the middle people were because, I mean, it's just people going in with their checklist, wanting to see certain things. And it's almost as if like people are saying, how dare you make a movie? How dare you make your own movie? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like the movie's supposed to be for us. And
in a way,
I don't think that way with this movie in particular.
In a way, I really commend David Gordon Green and Danny McBride and John Carpenter and Jamie Lee Curtis for telling the story that they wanted to tell, because they took some big risks with this. They really did. And they did a lot of things that I really liked. They did some things that I didn't like as much, and that's okay. I mean, it's okay to not completely love, excuse me, to not completely love everything about a movie. Again, I think Michael,
because again,
brutal.
There's no movie out there that I 100% love.
Yeah,
even Endgame. There's some things I didn't like about Endgame.
Right, me too. I mean, and I don't know if I've ever looked forward to seeing a movie more than Avengers Endgame. I mean, it's one of the few times I've cried in a movie theater. I actually cried watching it for the first time.
Okay.
But I mean, this was a similar level of hype, and I loved Michael. I actually saw him as a villain, and that's something that I haven't done in a long time. You kind of root for Michael because it's like Darth Vader. It's like Thanos. He's such a good villain, and that you kind of like him. Like, you kind of have to like him. But I mean, there were points in this movie where I was like, I'm not rooting for him. Like, I'm actually not rooting for Michael this time because he's so dark and he's so brutal. The comedy was better. I just didn't expect to be so much of it. I didn't expect as many funny moments and as many kind of comical moments as we got. But again, on the second watch, I didn't mind them as much. It didn't jump out at me like it did the first time. I loved the brutality. I loved a lot of things. I think the mob was a great idea. I didn't love everything that they did with the mob, but I think there were a lot of things with it that I really did. Like the score. We didn't even talk about the score. John Carpenter knocked it out of the friggin' park again.
He did. He set the tone and the atmosphere of the movie.
His son or his nephew, whoever, Cody Carpenter, and Daniel Davies, they did an incredible job. Unkillable. I can't tell you how many times I've listened to Unkillable in the car driving around. It's my favorite track. It's one of my favorite tracks from the 2018 score or this score at all. So I really liked it. I do need to watch it a few more times, I think, before I do a rating, because honestly...
Oh, no, you're doing a rating right now. We've spent...
No, not a rating.
Okay.
A ranking. Before I rank it in all of the films, because I'm going to give it a rating. Calm yourself. Good Lord.
I was about to say, we're not spending 2 hours over here, not for you to give a number.
No, I'm going to give a number. But I do need to watch it a few more times to know kind of where it falls with the rest of the films. Obviously, I don't think it's not... I don't know if it's my favorite sequel, but it's up there. It's in the top 5, definitely.
Yeah.
But I did really enjoy it. I didn't walk out of there blown away like I thought I would.
Yeah.
But again, I think it's like 2018. I was disappointed walking out of 2018, but I've seen 2018 probably 5 or 6 times now, including our watch along, and I've enjoyed Halloween 2018 substantially more and more every time I've watched it. And hopefully this film will grow on me in the same way.
Good. I think with me, since I've only seen like the 3 canonical movies right now, I mean, I could probably rank them right now. And I would say the original one first, and Halloween Kills second, and then Halloween 2018 third right now. That's pretty much how I would rank them.
Let me ask you this. Not necessarily which one you liked more. I'm talking in the way it was put together, the pacing, the cinematography, the look, the score, everything. Do you think 2018 was the better movie, or do you think Kills was the better movie? Not which one you liked better.
I would say 2018 was probably the more
I think I would agree with that.
gathered together because they needed, because 2018 needed to wipe the slate clean and make a lot of canon thing, or how to like what's it called?
They had to establish lore because
they had to retcon a lot of things. They had to retcon a lot of things and establish a new lore for this timeline, and I think they did a fairly decent job with it. Compared to everything you've told me. Obviously, I haven't seen all the other Halloween sequels, but compared to what you've told me, I mean, it didn't sound like what I was expecting, relatively speaking.
Absolutely. So Miguel,
you're going first.
I'm going first?
No, fine. I'll go first since you're
you go first. You go
first. Yeah. I would say, in regards to this movie, I would give it probably a 7.8.
7.8.
Yeah, 7.8 overall.
Okay. I am going to go with an 8.0.
Oh, shit.
I'm going to go with 8.0. I say that, honestly, after first watch, I was sitting at a 7. I'm being completely honest. I was sitting at a 7 after the first watch, but rewatching it last night, I really looked at it differently. Like a lot of the things I kind of got more, and I was like, okay, like I'm feeling this a lot more than I did the first time. The comedy and I don't want to say it was silly. I don't mean it's silly. I don't mean it like that at all. So please, nobody take it like that. But I did kind of feel like some of the things that happened almost had a silliness to them, or it came across that way.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe it was partially the theater, because everybody in the theater was laughing. I mean, there were a lot of laughs in the theater, which is cool. I mean, it was a fun theatrical experience. But it didn't come across as funny to me as it did. And of course, you have to have levity. In a movie that's that intense and that bloody and that brutal with that much carnage and death, you have to have a little bit of levity, or else you would walk out of there feeling depressed. You know what I mean? And 100%. I know, thank you to all the people who said, you need to watch it again, because I'm so glad that I took the time last night to actually sit and kind of process it and rewind a few scenes and go through and like really kind of nitpick.
He was begging me for my Peacock password. He was
I really was
begging me.
Yeah,
it was insane. So I was like, here you go, man. I give it to you.
So, but I got it. I'm going to give it an 8.0 right now. Again, I've seen it twice. It's technically still, well, it's not opening weekend anymore, but I mean, it's been out for 3 days. I mean, that rating could change. And we will do a ranking. I promise you guys, we are going to do more Purely and Simply Evil shows. And I mean, Miguel, we haven't even really talked about this, but I'd be down to do all the Halloweens first, to go just straight down the line if you wanted to. So,
sure.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where that show takes us. Art says, yeah, he gave it an 8.0. Guys, real quick, we're at about 2 hours and 15 minutes. Whatever questions you have, whatever you want to say, drop it in the chat real quick before we get out of here.
Or also drop your rating right now. I'm curious to see
drop your rating, drop your questions. We're going to turn this whole thing over to the chat room. So drop your rating. What did you think of Halloween Kills? Please tell us your thoughts. Again, we say this all the time. Let's Talk Movies is about everybody. It's not just about Miguel and I. I mean, we want to hear your thoughts. We want to talk to you guys. So please drop your rating, drop your thoughts, and let us know what you thought. So Art gave it an 8.0. I was sitting at a 7 the first time, and then even kind of today I was thinking about it, and I was like,
I was sitting
7.6.
I was sitting at a 7.0 leaving that theater. And that's a good 7.0.
Right.
It was no like bad 7.0, but after watching the second time and watching all the good scenes that I loved in it, I was like, you know what? I'll give it a 7.8. The mob mentality and the pacing and the I would say like the exposition throughout the movies kind of lost it for me, so to speak.
Yeah.
Because again, when I was coming in this movie, I was expecting purely and simply carnage and just pure rage. But when I rewatched it on Peacock, I noticed that shit didn't hit the fan all that much until like 30 minutes left. It did not feel like an hour and 40 some minutes.
It felt short. That was the other thing that kind of caught me off guard. It felt very short. But I also felt that way about 2018, and I don't feel that way anymore.
Yeah.
I don't feel that way anymore at all. So I don't know. Let's see. My mom says 2018 didn't have so much comedy, did it? People were outright laughing, especially the car door shooting. Yeah, Vanessa. But I guess it's equal to all the butter the babysitter spilled.
Oh my God.
Annie's spilling butter all over herself. It did have comedy, but I don't know. I thought Kills had more comedy. I really did. And a lot of people were like, this was so dark and serious. And it was dark and serious, but I really thought that there was a lot more comedy in Kills than there was. And I thought it landed better. It was better comedy in Kills. Like, it was actual laughing. I actually laughed a few times.
Yeah.
Even when Little John is walking with the chef's knife through the room, and he walks by himself in the mirror and he goes, huh.
Yeah.
And he likes to, like, little things like that. There was levity and there was pretty good comedy.
I died laughing whenever they found out someone broke in and Little John pulls out the charcuterie knife. That's not a knife. That ain't a knife. He says, well, we're gonna get him. I said, with what? It ain't a cheese or a sausage. Where are we going with this? I said, good luck. Okay, I'm honestly, man, you deserve to get stabbed in the armpit walking up to a fight with that.
Art says, are you guys going to do a Peacock watch along before the month is up?
It would be tough.
Maybe.
I wouldn't want to like risk getting red flagged. You know what I mean? Copyright.
Well, we would do a commentary the same way.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, okay, that's fair. I didn't want to risk like us getting like marked or whatever.
We can't ever show the movie just because we'll get copy. I mean, Universal would kill us. Yeah, I mean, we will do a commentary at some point. I don't know. I can't guarantee you. I don't want to make you the promise that it'll be this month, but like I said, we will start doing more with the Purely and Simply Evil show, and we will do a commentary for Halloween Kills later on as well. Halloween Best Kills says kills. I'm not sure what you mean. The kills were incredible, and there was a whole lot of it. But so yeah, guys, that is our spoiler review and discussion of Halloween Kills. We liked it. And if anything, we cannot wait until Halloween ends.
On the road to Halloween ends.
I know we are finally on the hype train. Part of me was kind of sad. I was like, man, all of this hype to Halloween Kills is over. And then another part of me was like, but we still have an entire other year that like it's not going anywhere. You know what I mean? We're still going to be rocking and rolling on our way to Halloween ends. So guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us. We are almost at 2.5 hours into this show. You guys are the best. Please be sure, if you're watching after the fact, leave us a comment. Let us know your rating. Let us know what you thought of Halloween Kills. This is a spoiler review, but if you're going to post spoilers in the comments, please leave, the little space bar thing and, try to at least kind of cover it up and conceal it a little bit. Because I know some people still have not seen the film. But that is going to do it for episode number 45 of Let's Talk Movies, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. New episodes of Let's Talk Movies podcast drop every single Monday and Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're on Twitter and Instagram at We Talk the Movies. We're also on TikTok, and we're going to start posting some more on TikTok too, I promise. That's one of our things that we've been trying to work on as well. And I promise you, we will get more Purely and Simply Evil shows rolling. I promise you that. Guys, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Peace.